The fact that your point of reference for the slow clap is bringing a fairy back to life is possibly the most Danae thing ever to happen on this podcast.
Welcome to Behind the Sins, presented by CinemaSins.
Welcome to Behind the Sins, a weekly look at everything going on inside the world of CinemaSins. I'm Aaron Dicer, and I'm joined as always by Jonathan Watkins.
Hello, hello.
And Danae Hughes.
Not on the toilet.
We write for CinemaSins and TV Sins and do various other things inside the CinemaSins universe as well. I guess I should update my status as well. Also not on the toilet. If this is a thing that people wonder while
Jonathan
we're
is nervously gulping soda like, oh shit, here we go.
Oh, I was thirsty. No, I'm not on the toilet either.
Okay,
weird,
good.
Man.
This is a very important parent status update for our recording process.
I learned something really valuable about my friendship with Jonathan today, and that is not to send jokey, poopy gifts. It's just not appreciated. And
I don't even like the shit emoji. Like that bothers me.
Right. So I accidentally crossed a line.
Well,
You definitely did not.
I'm sure Jonathan will appreciate you broadcasting that to everybody, so that now
I don't care. I know I'm weird.
So now he has to worry about trolls, sending him that stuff.
Don't send him poopies. Don't do it.
No, I just have to worry about Frank. That's the only person I have to worry about is Frank. Everybody else is nice.
So sharks.
Don't send sharks to me, and don't send poopies to Jonathan.
Yeah,
Aaron, what can't they send to you?
Don't send me your nude photos. That just freaks me out.
I don't particularly want those either.
Oh my God, what have we done? Maybe I should change my intro. Should we start over?
No, you're fine. I really don't care at all. Like I don't mind people knowing that. I'm very honest about it.
It is definitely an interesting thing when you're like, hey, this is something that bothers me, and people are like, oh, fun. Let's send that to you.
Well, it's like you were talking about last week about you have the people that can on SIFPOP that on that certain Patreon level can have you watch movies, and they always give you like the shittiest movies to watch.
Yeah. I don't mind that though, so I don't think of that as trolling.
Fine.
I think of that as like fan service kind of thing. Like it's fun stuff.
Like, you asked for it, asshole.
I think of that more of an enjoyable pain.
It's like I'm going to spend $100 and make you watch a shitty movie.
Yes, yeah, no, it is much appreciated for sure. Let's get into it, guys. Before we dig ourselves any further of a hole, we will get into the SinSide Scoop.
What's he building in there?
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
This is a true story.
Going to take a look at the videos from the week, the process of sending them, how we felt about the stuff we're sending as well. We continue with the Rick and Morty run on TV Sins with the Vat of Acid episode, a very strangely titled Rick and Morty, considering they didn't squeeze Rick or Morty's name into it, which is usually kind of a thing.
Yeah, that's been there. I thought that was going to be the shtick this whole new season.
Well,
not.
It's been a thing for them really the last couple of seasons, and I mean they've done it off and on since the beginning, but they've made it kind of a thing. So
I just got pro Mortius. Yeah, you're right. I didn't think about that. Interesting.
Yeah. So anyhow, the Vat of Acid Yep, exactly.
Vat of Acid.
The Vat of Acid episode. The Vat of Acid episode about a vat of acid. How's that?
The new TV Sins narrator, everyone. Woo!
It is the Atkinson Dicer script. Chris and I wrote on this one. This is my favorite of the ones we've done. I love this episode.
Yes.
I think this episode is a blast.
I agree.
I love the characters. I love those gangsters, which we talk about in the video. I think they're so hilarious. I love the thought experiment going on with the time travel that's not time travel. I love the meta-ness of that. I thought the experimentation was really well done in this one. I had a really good time with this episode.
Okay, so all of that was sort of evident in the Sins, but then like what wasn't explained is were they in acid and how?
No, they're not in acid. In fact,
they're in Mountain Dew.
Yeah, I think we mentioned Mountain Dew in the video.
Yeah, you do. You say that was one of my favorites. Was what is it? Sound doesn't travel through Mountain Dew this well. Like you guys are so certain. Sound does not travel through Mountain Dew.
That's right. We did the experiments. I filled up a kiddie pool with Mountain Dew.
Which is funny because I have Mellow Yellow. This is not Mountain Dew. But.
No, sound travels fine through Mellow Yellow. It's just the Mountain Dew that.
I hadn't watched the episode, so I couldn't tell if that was calling acid Mountain Dew for fun.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, that makes sense.
So
That makes sense. Man, we had a good time with this one. I think I've said this before. Stuff I love is my favorite stuff to sin, and that's going to be evident actually in both of our TV Sins episodes this week. But yeah, I had a really good time with this one. What did Chris have to say? Because I think Chris wrote in some thoughts on this one as well.
Oh yeah, that's something I do. Cool. Yeah, that's something that I should probably immediately be prepared to do because I do it every week. But am I ready? No.
Well, then we'll go to Jonathan. Jonathan, what are your thoughts on this episode?
That's like live reporter. Like
my thoughts on
she's not
the
available.
episode.
Let's go to Jonathan.
I agree with everything you said about the episode itself. I thought it was very funny. It was a nice reprieve. Yeah, I think it was better than the other. Was this the fourth episode or the third one? I'm so lost. Third.
I think this is the third. Yeah.
And I think it's probably like just going back and trying to think about the first half of this season, which I actually didn't watch that long ago. I think this is probably the best episode of the season.
I agree. I think I think it's best episode.
This
of
felt
season
like
4.
one of those powerhouse episodes you got from like the first or second season. And I even loved in the video how you talk about like when they go, they show the classroom, and you have that sin about missing the season 1, even if the show is only in season 4, and then you're like, wait, that's every show.
It really is. When I started to think about it, I was like, wait, every show I love is this way. I get to season 4 and I'm like, remember how you used to be cool in season 1?
Is this the episode that you last week were saying you and Chris got into like a really conversation about? Was it time travel?
They were yelling at each other. They were calling each other names.
Yeah. The gloves really
Aaron
came off.
Called him Mr. Poopy Shorts a couple times.
Mm-hmm. Hey, listen, if he's going to be, copping that attitude, he's going to get a poopy shorts out of me. That's just what happens.
Why is the word poopy so funny?
Well, we've used it like a dozen times in this podcast already, so
do not drink with the word poopy on this episode.
Oh no. This is the one where we were going back and forth about the scientific idea of what they were doing here, because it is something that is clearly, they think they're explaining it, and yet it's clearly not explained to where it's not confusing. But is it something that could be not confusing? Are they intentionally trying to make it a little confusing, or is it just that the concept that I'm not grasping it? It's probably both, and that's why I wrote that sin. So
there were which I'm not surprised. I saw some comments in the comments section about like them questioning like what they thought it was, but and actually some of the comments made perfect sense, but I don't believe the episode explained it that way. So I think you guys nailed it.
Yeah. I liked how you guys got into that. And I did find Chris's comments, and he talks about it a little bit too. He talked about this being the best episode of the new season because of the gangster characters at the beginning, which we kind of already covered. So I'll jump into the middle of what he said. The fun of sending this episode, and the one thing that gives you a terrible headache, is deconstructing how the save point remote works. Once it's revealed that the save point is actually a parallel dimension where the same things that are happening in the current dimension, in that Morty has been sacrificing other Mortys to go to the other dimensions, and then all the science that starts to fall apart in amusing ways for us. This episode is not meant to be digested this way. You're just supposed to accept the parameters and experience the laws. But for us, it became one of those tasks where describing what the episode is saying and describing our interpretation of what it's saying and then finding sins for it is a monumental but fun task.
That is when we were going back and forth, really trying to, when the episode says this, what do they mean? How do we interpret that? And I think we did the best we could with what they gave us. And I think at the end of the day, the part where it says you somehow managed to find something more confusing than time travel is my feeling coming out of this. It's like, congratulations, you avoided time travel by finding something even more abstract and confusing.
Yeah.
So
that was really well done.
Yeah.
The both could be true. That whole thing that you said.
Yep, I Forrest Gumped it.
Yeah, you did.
We should Forrest Gump more things. I don't know what that means.
Isn't he the one? Doesn't Forrest have the line where it's like, or both? both things could be true. Isn't that a Forrest Gump thing?
I believe you. I haven't seen that movie in so long.
All right.
I don't know.
Fair enough. What about the video itself, guys? What did you think?
I enjoyed it very much so. I liked that you guys took the send off for the gangsters, which we already kind of talked about, but those gangsters were just phenomenal.
Yeah,
we
so
didn't
much
even play
fun.
that part where I like at the very end, right before Morty jumps up, when he's like, "Okay, we're gonna call a bone doctor and figure this shit out." It's like so funny.
Yeah.
Pointing out the 2+2 equation on the chalkboard, I thought was awesome.
Yeah.
And then I think my favorite thing though was, does it matter? Garlic bread. I don't know who did that one. I don't know where that thought process came from, but it was beautiful.
It's a callback to the Does It Matter lasagna from the first Rick and Morty. And
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
And so I was just like, this is another one of those does it matter and then non sequitur that I was thinking, and I was like, well, let's just go with the whole Italian meal, shall we? So,
okay. I had just totally forgotten about that. No, that's perfect.
Breadsticks.
Yeah.
Lasagna.
But I just love random stuff like that. It's just like
yeah, it's fun stuff. What about you, Danae?
You guys have mentioned a lot already. Pointing out, it's actually going to be in both Rick and Morty and then also Birds of Prey, pointing out how silly it is to just not shoot when you can shoot. It actually happens in Rush Hour as well. You know, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
And it's something that I never really have thought about before. Obviously, it's to keep whomever alive when they're supposed to be alive and kill others whenever it's convenient for the plot. But it's still something that whenever I see it send, it's one of those that's like, oh my gosh, yeah, they should just kill him now. So it was fun to see that.
It's kind of like plays off the same thing where you have bad guys that are trying to kill the protagonist the entire movie. Trying to just destroy them and kill them. And then once they finally get them, they want to talk.
Yeah.
And tell them their plan.
Which gives the good person time to get away or whatever. I also like the fan service. I haven't seen this much fan service callback humor since Jeremy's college girlfriend narrated the Prometheus School of Not Lap Dancing 40 seconds of logos. That was such a turning in on itself so many times that you're just like, yeah, this is a fun ride. So that was good.
Yeah.
That needs to be on maybe a shirt in our store. And then the run from the narrator about why you care so much and okay, I'm just working through something. I'm not Jeremy.
Yeah.
And then that
You're
kind
not
of translating.
Jeremy. I don't have to listen to you.
Yeah, I don't have to listen to you. Yeah, I loved that run. And then for it to translate down into the comments, to see people being like, okay, not Jeremy. If you're not Jeremy, who are you? And then there was just a lot of fun comments in
like
in that vein.
Like, that guy that was like, this might be weird, but what's your name? Like, I don't know why it's so weird.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, that was fun because, that was Gerard said, this may be weird, but what's your name, non-Jeremy, since you're sticking around? Loved the episode, by the way. And so I just responded, with some people call me Aaron, many people call me Dicer.
Yeah.
I would be honored to be your non-Jeremy or something like that. And so now in the rest of the comments, you will see people call me non-Jeremy.
Non-Jeremy.
And even in other videos now, people are like, oh, hey, it's non-Jeremy narrating this one or whatever. I'm like, oh, great. So so officially I am non-Jeremy, which is good, which is fine.
Yeah. Andre was like, non-Jeremy. Okay, that's what it is. Onward to more videos. Chop, chop. Like, get back to it. Like, it was so fun. There was other fun things, other fun, for us, fun. I think the fans are picking up because like Scott Corin put in the comments about Jeremy being sick because his best friend's sister's boyfriend's brother's girlfriend heard from this guy who knows this kid who's going with that girl who saw Jeremy pass out at 31 Flavors last night, and that's why he's not narrating anymore. So they're kind of having fun creating these. I don't know. It's turned from this more serious stuff to the obviously silly stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know how it's happening, but I love it.
I didn't see that one. That's a great. I love the Ferris Bueller send off. That's awesome.
Yeah. In the category of little mistakes that just are going to irk me for the rest of my life, calling carbon dioxide carbon monoxide instead of dioxide is just one of those little things that's just like, screwed that up. Nobody caught it. Just those. It's almost like a typo, right? Where there's a typo and you're like, why didn't I catch that? And it's just,
because we're just hearing when we're reviewing it, we just saw carbon and eyed, and it just
totally.
It went in our brain like that makes sense.
Yeah. So
carbonide. That's what it is. But great job. It's been
appreciate that.
this continues to be fun. This continues to be a fun. What do you call it? Contemporaneous.
Yeah. Contemporaneous sinning.
I'm so proud of myself for remembering that word. It's finally sticking after all of these weeks. I really enjoy it, and I think you guys are doing a really great job. I get to be on the next Rick and Morty. Mm-hmm. If everything goes according to plan for next week. And it was so nerve-wracking because I'm following all of you guys and I'm just being like, okay, it's my turn to step to the plate. So it's crazy.
It's nerve-wracking for me though, because Chris and Aaron just get this show more than I do. So like I'm always just like they're gonna knock down everything I say. Oh, that's not true. And
that's how they are as people.
I questioned the spaceship, which I think that sin was perfect, but I questioned the spaceship in the garage, and I felt proud of myself because, like, well, he does have another lab because they're an episode blah blah blah.
That's true.
That I watched recently, but then Chris is like, yeah, but how would he get it down there? I'm like, fair point.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like seeing this episode, you and Chris taking over another a script. It's intimidating and so fun. So well done.
Appreciate that. It was a lot of fun to do, and I'm excited we're doing this. We should probably start thinking about like what's coming out soon that we want to try this again with, like another contemporaneous sinning. Like the pressure of it is interesting because we don't have any other script that we do like that, where it's like, okay, we got to rock this in 24 hours, and so there's kind of a real fun element to that pressure. And so I'm excited to kind of think of what we might do that with next.
I think Real Housewives of something is coming on pretty soon. So
oh my God, stop it right now.
Hey, before we move on though, can I say that there was a comment on the Rick and Morty thread from Mimi Lord, and it said, or Meme Lord, it said, you should send Avatar The Last Airbender now that it's on Netflix.
Well, what a great transition, because I only had to wait 2 days there, buddy. Avatar The Last Airbender was the other one we did. We
didn't know this was coming on Netflix though when we decided to do it, right?
Oh yes, we did. Yeah, no, that was the plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I guess.
In fact, it was originally scheduled to release when it dropped on Netflix a week before, but we moved some stuff around because we have to be flexible with this Rick and Morty stuff, and then we've got merch promos going on and that kind of thing. So, and by the way, Danae's doing incredible work with new merch, which I think you'll be able to see by the time you hear this, right? Like by the time people hear this, there'll be new merch up on the store. So
there's new merch at the stores whenever this airs, and as this airs, there's also a sale going on. So you can, at the time of airing, it will be code DING for 10% off. But
cool.
If you're listening to this in the future, you will still have really cool merch to go check out. And if you're a member, you also can get access to discounts there too. So we can talk about that later, though.
But Danae has done an insane amount of great work on this, and so you should buy her some merch as well.
Hell yeah!
Her address is
get me a pair of leggings.
Those leggings do look comfy.
Man, I'm so excited. But here's the thing: I want to spend all of my money on so much merch. But we're getting distracted. Anyway,
no,
this episode was supposed to come out
last
really
week.
Close to when. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but either way, it dropped, and I have to say, and this changes week to week. This may be one of my favorite Sins videos we've ever done on TV Sins. And it's probably again because I love this show so much. And the fans have responded in such a fun way in the comments, and that always helps me as well when like fans of the product get it. And there are so many Last Airbender fans who get what we do and are enjoying it in the comments. And
thank God, I was so
and a lot
intimidated.
of people watched it. So that's a good rule. If you want to see more videos from the same show, get a lot of people to watch the video, and maybe we'll do it.
Sure. So this was a Dicer Hughes script, very intentionally, because both Danae and I do love the show and have watched all of the show, and so we took a crack at it and had a good time. Danae, why don't you talk about your love for the show first before we get into the video and stuff?
No one's going to get to drink on this.
I was
That's right.
I was really, really, really sick when Aaron Dicer told me that I needed to watch this show. And
that's the only way I ever get her to watch anything is if she's really, really sick.
I have nowhere to go. I was bedridden, and I think I was sick for probably about a week. And so I literally binged all of Avatar in that time frame when I wasn't feeling well. From morning until night, days and days and days in a row, I just laid in bed and watched Avatar. And it was really wonderful. It made me want to be sick even longer. And it's one of those shows where when it ends, you ache because you're not ready to let the characters go and you're not ready to say goodbye to a storyline. And I've actually experienced that in some other shows too. And it's a real, in my podcast, Not Another D&D podcast that I've raved about many, many times. They just wrapped up their final episode and I cried because every week I tune in to listen to the next installment and follow the story. And then all of a sudden it's not there anymore, and it's just an incredibly emotional experience. It happens with books as well.
Oh yeah,
you read a series of books and you're just so involved and you're
Aaron
so
knows all
absorbed.
about that.
Yeah.
Aaron the reader.
So many books.
And for books it's even almost more intense because you're world building in your imagination, and so you're really attached to the things that you have come to like see in your imagination, and then all of a sudden the series is over, you're finished with the books, and there's nowhere to go. It's a real emotional experience. And so when you're binging something like Avatar while you're not well, and you're like, instead of focusing on your illness, you're focusing on this beautiful story. It was one of the coolest watching experiences for me. And so I was very, very, very intimidated to sin it because I love it. And also, since I started working with you guys almost a year ago is when we're coming up on my started to submit test scripts timeframe. And for TV Sins, Avatar is always in the comment section. It's always been asked for. And there's always someone who says they would never dare. And so I'm like, oh, here we go. So, it's just one of those you just don't want to get wrong. And you want to find that playful middle ground of doing the sins that are fun, but like also like truly sins, and also have a little bit of fan service too. And I had a really good time with it because going back into that world, watching the first episode, it made me want to just go right back into it and just binge it all over again. So I'm going to take sick leave next week. And
I thought you were taking sick leave to choose a phone. Now you're taking sick leave to watch Avatar again.
On my phone.
I fell in love with this show right from the beginning, and I think that was even more evident in watching this episode again this closely, is how quickly this show gets you into its world building and how deep that world building is quickly. And I love it when a property can set up its rules concisely and clearly right from the beginning, and you're just like, okay, I'm with you, I'm in your world. And Last Airbender does that really, really well. And so, yeah, I really had a good time revisiting this and going through it. Did you end up watching Korra too? The sequel?
Oh yeah. I don't think I finished Korra, it's one of my shame never got back to it. I don't remember why, but I don't think I ever actually finished, maybe even had one season to go. And so I haven't put a little pin in that one. And you know what, honestly, it might be because I don't want it to end again.
Right.
There's like an emotional thing there. It's like, I don't know if I can go through this again, but now it's been long enough that I could probably go back and put a pin in it. But yes, I watched almost every single episode of Korra, and I loved that too. I love that one a lot. There was actually a question in the comments from Dragon King who asked, did any of you watch the sequel series, Legends of Korra? And if so, what did you think? And if not, let me know. I would totally recommend it. I would absolutely recommend it.
Yeah, I loved Korra as well, and it does something really smart that a lot of sequels don't do, where it completely resets the table. It jumps like 2 generations. And so it's one of those...
That was actually hard for me, though.
Yeah, because your fan brain wants all the people you know and love, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
it's needed... It's so smart, though, because you need to have separation, because you don't want to just... It needs to stand on its own, and I think it really, really does.
Well, especially when
it's a sequel, though. I typically prefer sequels over prequels when they do TV shows.
Yeah. Yeah. What's your experience, Jonathan, with this?
I watched this episode because I was the shadow on the script, but I had never seen it. I haven't even, and I know you say this, it really is apples and oranges because they didn't do a good job with the movie, but that's the only M. Night movie I've never seen.
Yeah.
I don't know. You hear that bad, a movie's that bad, I don't know that I want to go spend 2 hours with it.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Yeah, I know. That's why I almost didn't bring it up. But I bring that up to say I have no experience with this series.
Yeah.
I liked it. I liked the episode. I don't know that I'm going to just, go binge it on Netflix right away. But I might watch it down the road. I might show it to my daughter and see what she thinks. Maybe it's something we could watch together. But no, but I get it. I mean, I can see where the world building is going, and it's just, it's a nice show. I don't know what else to say because I only have that one episode to talk about.
I had somebody start watching it recently and got back with me after the first episode, and they were like, "Oh, this is a kids show," and I was like, "Yeah, maybe I should have prepared you for that a little bit better too." Whereas, like, the humor in this show is very much like kid humor. Like it is definitely a show that knows its target audience. What's beautiful about it is that it appeals to adults, I think, because the world building is so deep, and so the character
world
work
building, yeah. I think you were going here, so feel free to just take it.
No, I was
take
just
it back
saying,
over.
No. The world building and the character work in this show are so intricate and beautiful that I think adults connect to it in a real way. So, yeah.
One of the things I love to see that a show can do is have depth to it, and I think one of the things that if you're thinking about going in and watching a G-rated Nickelodeon anime, you're like, is that something I'm really interested in as an adult? The themes of friendship and value and all of that it's really kind of just nice to watch that stuff develop, and it's not something they shove down your throat. It's where you're watching it and you're seeing like a redemption story, kind of start to develop. You're like, wow, this is a different take on where I thought it was going to be going. And just that there's some challenges that come up with them personally that they talk about. And I don't know, they do a really good job, I think, of sort of bringing in those elements to the character work like you were talking about. So I would definitely recommend it. And it's a good watch with kids. If you do have kids and you want to just watch something with them, yes, it's definitely geared towards them. But sometimes that's like a nice little palate cleanser for our psyche, our soul, our spirit, or whatever you want to call it.
These days, something like that sounds more pleasant. I know Aaron was talking last week about not really watching as many dramas and stuff. I'm kind of in that same boat. So
yeah, it's kind of nice to just have some sort of an input. And this is definitely one where it's got really fun action and really interesting uses of, martial arts and magic. And though it's not magic.
Thirsty kids. Kids that are thirsty.
Yes,
maybe that's a good place to transition into the video itself, Jonathan. Since you didn't write on it, why don't you start us off? What were some of your thoughts on the video?
Yeah, I love the scrotum lamps as always, pleasant. We've got a lot of lamp sins recently, by the way.
That's one where you guys talk about like, oh, that's a sin because your perspective as a woman. I would have never thought about that. Scrotum lamps is mine, is the equivalent. I would have never seen those as scrotum lamps.
I loved the one where the character said, "I haven't lost hope," but you have lost your eyelashes. And then the only other one, the other one I had written down was the "so incest then," and the reason that was kind of funny was because at first that was one I actually suggested you guys might want to cut if you were looking to cut something, and then you both were just like, "No, we really like the incest sin. We want that incest sin." So I'm like, "All right, guys, like it's fine."
That makes us sound so fucked up.
Well, it was kind of like you guys are really adamant about this. That's cool, but it totally works. I mean, especially with Jeremy's bringing it totally works.
Oh my god.
Well, there was another one too. I thought that the sin just went on too long, and like there was the one where it ended with and Olaf died, and I think I had suggested maybe taking off and Olaf died, and then Danae fought for that. So I was like, no, that's fine. But then the way Jeremy read it, like in the content, it worked so beautifully. I think I even made a note like, I'm glad you fought for this one because it worked really well.
That's actually a nod to the NAD Pod. They have so they release their weekly episodes And then they have another episode for members of them like recapping it behind the scenes, like what the players were thinking when XYZ happened in the story and things like that. So like more behind the scenes, like kind of what we do actually.
Yeah.
And they have this recurring thing that they started to do where they literally start the show up. We've been like, Olaf dies. And I don't, it's so funny to me. So as soon as this one kicked off and it's like water, fire, and I'm like, oh my God. And then of course I send Frozen. So I had to put Olaf dies in that movie.
Once you said it was a reference, that's two. And I was like, yeah, keep it then. Cause I like references like that. It's always cool. We have a really weird reference and something that's coming up. And I was just like, and Aaron was like, no, we can totally keep that in. Like one person might get it, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta love those starfish sins.
Yeah. I was going to say, I couldn't remember what it was called because I always get it wrong. So I was like, yeah, you got to love those sock sins. Those socks that you find just hanging out.
Well, what about you, Danae? What is some of the stuff from the video you wanted to bring up?
Oh, I loved how you approached the whole like, okay, let me clear up what this is. It's referencing this. It has nothing to do with the movie. Like just how you worded like, but also like, I love the cleverness of the sin about...
There was some appreciation for the disconnect from the M. Night movie. People, I think that's like a universal Last Airbender fan thing. It's just like, can we just pretend that movie doesn't exist?
Yeah, but how you wrote it was really fun. Just putting it there in that title, I really enjoyed. I also really liked your sin about Laura and Larry Penguin getting rid in a really long distance. Because when I was watching it, I was like, man, where are those penguins going to go? But I didn't think about making a sin of it. So reading the script and seeing in there, I really liked I like that a lot.
It's just the complete disregard they have to ride those penguins miles from their flag, and they just leave them.
They just don't care.
It's such a fun sequence because the music is going and
but who's gonna think of the penguins? We will. That's who.
We will. Aaron does. There was a collaborative effort with the Bangarang, which is a reference to
I was gonna
the
mention
voice
that
actor. Which I'm going to talk just real super briefly in keeping tabs about that. But I really enjoyed like the help of figuring out how to word that to where it was fun to kind of reference. I got to slide in a little bit of note of the first female writer into the script on this one.
Yeah, that was good.
And I couldn't figure out how to do it well until I was like, oh, maybe Jeremy would be okay with making fun of himself for getting caught dicking around, Right. So... and he, because like we will submit obviously our script, but ultimately if the narrator is not wanting to read it because it doesn't hit them, it won't be read. So in my mind, there's always a chance like, oh, I'm not going to do that one. So, and that's actually shifting for Aaron too. Like we're writing now for multiple voices. And so it's really interesting to go through that process. Yeah. And this one and like others like D&D references and stuff. I always wonder if it'll get to Jeremy, who is our archetype, for the content we do, and he'll think that's nothing to do with what we do, and he'll cut it. So
it's funny when you said that though. I was thinking you were meaning like we try to slip stuff in, like "Go fuck yourself, San Diego," or like from Anchorman. Like we're trying to make him like it's like he reads everything.
No. Just more like does he wanna open the door like this? Does he want to give a peek behind the curtain? Like we make the staff jokes and stuff like that, and then we've called out Jonathan for being a creep, although accidentally.
I accidentally did that to myself.
Yeah. And so this one's sort of the first time that I've been referenced on that kind of scale, I think, if I remember correctly. So that was kind of fun for me to do. What about you, Aaron? We
referenced you a little bit in Outlander with listening with haven't heard a female curse like this was the line or whatever. And
That's
like
right.
You should listen to Behind the Sins podcast.
Yeah, as soon as that came out of my mouth, I was like, wait, I think there was another one. So I'm glad you remembered that one.
Yeah. My first reference was the very first script I ever wrote on. Jeremy wrote my name into it. It was the Nut Job, I think. And he was something about like, can't we get Dicer in here to do something? And I was like, dude, you just wrote my name into a script. What are you doing? He's like, we do that around here. I was like, okay.
We do that.
So it's always
Nut
fun.
Job.
Yeah, man. Can you imagine your
also
first sin script being the nut job?
My first CinemaSins was Annabelle.
There you go.
Not much better. As far as the movie goes.
Before you share yours, I did want to say I really enjoyed the outtake that when the seal lions or whatever they are like started to go, oh, it super reminded me of Dark Crystal, and so I really loved that outtake.
No, it's great. I love the outtakes in this one. Just like all around, the water buffalo just works so perfectly, and people are just loving, kind of that tip to their childhood kind of thing. It did make me wonder, could we at TV Sins do a VeggieTales episode? Do you think that would even be like?
I don't know if I feel comfortable sinning Jesus.
Well,
I just want to
I don't know that I've ever actually seen one, because I definitely wasn't young enough and didn't have kids at the time when that was like a thing.
Listen,
I think we could definitely do it.
There is no way you could make that many chocolate bunnies that quickly. All right, like I'm just saying.
Right. Yeah, I
What
think
did
there's
they
definitely.
even do? Was it
cinnable.
just vegetables talking about Jesus? Is that what it was?
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. It's
But
actually a really good show. It's actually
like
really
the
smart and
parables.
fun.
I
But
mean, as popular as it is, I'm sure it is. I mean, I'm sure there's quality behind it. You don't get that popular without something. But yeah, that's interesting.
yeah. Anyhow,
I just wonder who came up with that. I mean, I don't know.
Somebody who loves Jesus and was also very high.
Yeah, and is very rich now.
Yeah.
Oh boy, man, I could go off on VeggieTales history on you guys right now, if that was where we were headed. But I gotta keep my eye on the prize here. We got a podcast to do, but yeah, Phil Vischer is a very interesting person and one of my favorite humans who has walked the planet. Yeah, it would be interesting to have that conversation.
Do you want to do a mini pod on it? You want to do a bonus episode?
No.
But we should say, bottom line, no show is without sin.
That is true.
That's right.
Yeah.
It could be done.
Right.
It could be done.
Jesus can be without sin. The show itself, super sinny. Aaron, what about you?
I had to mention some of my favorite puns. Anger issues, I think worked out really, really well. That was a lot of fun. I also enjoyed Jeremy's delivery was perfect on the not with that attitude you can't, which is one of my favorite things to say when people say like the most ridiculous things they can't do that they obviously can't do. And so that may be popping up in more scripts when that happens. Thirsty Ang was definitely funny to me because he is just like immediately in love with her, and just
he's got a boner. He's right.
He likes penguins and he likes
I mean,
her.
And he's been frozen for how many years at this point?
100?
Yeah, 100 and some.
And I don't know if he's actually frozen because I watched it over and over, and I think the area around him was frozen.
Gotcha.
But it lets out air whenever it opens up, and so I think he was in an air bubble encased in ice.
Okay.
But
Gotcha.
it's not really clear, at least at this point, and I don't remember from watching it if it's ever explained, and I didn't research it. So
we got to see something that has always bugged me, and when TV shows do to be continued at the end of the episode, and it's like, yeah, like we didn't think you were done.
Well, yeah, and I like that you did that because that wasn't like I noticed that when I watched it, I was like, that was a weird place to put it to be continued. Like,
because it wasn't even a cliffhanger.
Yeah, there was nothing where I was like, oh my God, what happens next? Which is usually what that, like somebody's about to die or somebody gets shot. Like that's when it kind of makes sense. But yeah, you're right. I mean, in theory, like to be continued is kind of silly.
The Aang is a liar. Gotta love in the comments too, which I really like because of things that happen later in the series. A lot of people bringing up the Great Divide, so yeah, it's fun to see those things take on a life of their own. So, like I said, I had a really great time with this one. I will mention also flying bison. A lot of people trying to explain the flying bison to me, and I get it. I totally understand. I think we even say in the Sin that we know that the bison are airbenders, like that they can bend air. But there's a difference between bending air to float a glider and bending air to elevate a buffalo, like a bison. Like that's just
this reminds me of when we send X-Men, and it's like Storm's whole like wind envelope thing, and trying to explain how you're gonna okay, so how does that work exactly?
Yeah, and you already mentioned the hook thing, which I think you're going to mention again later. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with this one. Let's move on to Lady Gaga, Ariana Grande on Music Video Sins with the song "Rain on Me." What did you guys think of this song?
It will not leave my head. I don't know that
It's
liked
pretty
it,
catchy.
but it's been stuck in my head for a couple of days.
Yeah, I don't think it's bad.
I watched it. I
fine.
clicked the video super fast whenever it popped up on YouTube because I knew it was coming and I was really curious about what it would sound like. And I don't know. I was a little disappointed in it. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It is catchy. It's very poppy, but I don't know what I was hoping for. But I don't know that was like it. I guess seeing Gaga and Ariana together is kind of a neat thing because there's obviously two powerhouses, and to hear their different voices singing together, I love collaborations and being able to hear how people sing together. But yeah, it was really interesting video too, because I think the concept is that, they're crying, that the tears are the rain and they're stabbing into you because of pain that's been caused. I think that's kind of the general vibe.
Yeah, no, the message of the song is really kind of beautiful.
Tell us more.
Well,
Aaron.
I did research a little bit of kind of their intent versus what I took. When I first heard it, I heard the same thing you did. The idea of which is not a new metaphor. Rain is pain is definitely not a new metaphor. It's been done many, many times. Visualizing it as raining daggers, that's interesting to me. I found that very compelling. But they also talked about the fact that talking about the line, I forget what the line in the song is, something about I'd rather be dry, but I made it through the rain or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was. I can look it up. But they also talked about that having to do with drinking as well. Like the idea that pain is also associated with drinking alcohol and flushing
like
away that pain.
abuse?
Yeah, those kind of things. And the idea of how do you deal with self-medication in those ways is kind of layered in there as well. And it's a lot deeper than I thought at first glance, at least, coming from them. And their relationship was really interesting in this. There's some good articles on kind of the mentorship, mentee-ship kind of thing between Gaga and Ariana, or Ari Ganga, I guess maybe we can call them together, that happened with this song. So, I think message-wise, it's pretty compelling.
That's interesting. The song is fine, but I'm kind of like Danae. There's just something about it. It kind of feels like they're just going through the motions, and it just feels like it was patched together from previous Lady Gaga. So I don't know. It just, not lazy. I don't think anything Lady Gaga does is lazy, but it just felt a little, for her, it felt a little generic.
Yeah.
Just the
maybe
sound and everything to it. But it's catchy. It's fine. It's not going to, I'm not going to put it in my top 10 Gaga songs or anything. Who I actually wasn't a huge fan of when she first came out. I've become a fan of hers in going back and revisiting her material.
Yeah.
Realizing how interesting some of it was. Because when she first came out, I was kind of off pop, I guess, at that point in my life. And then now that I've kind of gotten back into it, working on music video sets, having a daughter, or having a kid who gets into pop music, she's one that's definitely stepped up quite a bit in my mind. And just that Super Bowl performance really sold me on her.
Right.
Because, good God, just anyone that can do that for like 20 minutes straight,
I know.
You're amazing.
That's one thing I like about watching Gaga's videos and everything is just she is such a performer, and I really appreciate that. And I didn't know that about Taylor Swift. She's one that grew on me later also, like where I was like, whatever. And then I saw her in concert, and then I was super blown away because just being able to have the stamina to do this massive performance, sound fantastic, connect with your audience in a way that's really powerful to be able to do. And Gaga is like, she's like that, and she's a voice for a lot of people who don't have a voice. She's really vocal about she and Taylor Swift, I guess, are both kind of similar in that way. So I like Lady Gaga. I really like her artistry. It's obviously meant to be jarring and bold, and then watching her trajectory is just fascinating to me. She's somebody that I really think is pretty awesome. And like Beyonce is up there too, right?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say who made my trifecta is the extremely relevant Kid Rock.
Oh my God.
No one is going to get that. No one's going to get that.
I don't even know if that'll be in outtakes. It probably will. Who knows?
We'll just leave that there.
Oh my God. If not, it'll be a conversation next week, right?
Maybe,
so we'll be able to hit on that one.
I'm not a Kid Rock fan. For those that
oh my God.
What did Barrett have to say about Lady Ana Grande?
What was that?
Lady Ana Grande.
He said this should be a pretty fucking classic collaboration considering the pop clout between Ariana Grande and Lady Gaga. But the song is super forgettable. This is a video that I fully intended to just watch first and then do some other work and then come back to it and write the script. But I wrote the first 2 within the first 5 seconds of the video and I was off and running. And this was probably completed in about a half an hour or an hour and a half. Sorry. Let me make sure to give him his props for the amount of time you put in there. Apologize. And I don't mean like the half-assedly. Sometimes the words just flow out of you. But yeah, it's raining daggers, and then Gaga's head is in a toilet bowl, and then Aria shows up like she's a fairy from the Matrix, and the video is just fucking silly. I don't mind silly videos, but this one seemed pointless, and also I did enjoy finally, quote unquote, giving up on sending Ariana's diction. I got a little animated when I finally narrated, "Fuck your dictionary." Anyway, I wish this was better all around, but I still had some fun with it.
Very nice.
I loved that. That was probably my favorite. My favorite.
That was a lot of fun.
The slow
clap. Clapping.
Yeah.
Well, at first I didn't know what was happening. Did you guys have that too?
Yeah. No, I knew pretty quickly.
I reviewed the edit, so I had read the script. I had read the script, so
I've seen too many sports movie slow clap builds to not know what was going on.
I couldn't figure out. Okay, I'm going to tell you guys the truth, even though this is embarrassing. At first, I thought it was ping pong.
Like he had just stopped and played ping pong for a second. Which you have no idea how fitting that is for Barrett, because Barrett loves ping pong, by the way.
Well,
like that is not a joke. That is
it had that kind of like ping pong, ping pong. And then I stopped to write something down, and then I watched it again, and I still hadn't completed the sin. I delayed that. So then when I finally figured it out, I was like, oh, this is like one of those fairy clap moments where you could bring a fairy back to life kind of a thing. So
I've never heard of that before, but yeah, I believe
the fact that your point of reference for the slow clap is bringing a fairy back to life is possibly the most Danae thing ever to happen on this podcast.
Yeah,
that's the best.
I didn't know what the
a slow
thing.
clap, like where you bring fairies back to life, guys.
No, I thought it was like like in the shows where it's like you don't believe in something and so it dies.
Sure, yes.
And so then I was like, everyone's just no, you can do it, Barrett. Like kind of that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
I always think of it more as like in TV shows and stuff where somebody gives like a speech or something, and then just everybody's dead silent, and then all of a sudden
one person starts. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the slow clap.
And fairies.
Of course. Of course.
She was wearing wings, in my defense.
Yeah, Ariana Grande. Yeah, she absolutely was Ariana Grande in this. What about the video itself? I guess I'll start. The not pictured teardrops was really the only thing other than the one you mentioned with the slow clap. Really stood out to me. What about you guys?
When I was watching the video, and it was Gaga's head in this like circular thing, I was thinking, is this one of those clothes washers, that has like the bubble that you can watch it, but she's on the inside of this washing machine? I couldn't figure it out. So I was really glad to see Barrett's take on it in the Sins video, turning it into a toilet bowl, because that was just like a really awkward shot.
Yeah.
So
it triggered Jonathan, but,
Oh, no.
Now I regret saying something. No, I'm just kidding.
But I really liked the taunting the hurricane season. Like, haven't we gone through enough just yet? That was really fun.
Yeah.
The beginning, why is there no quote unquote and or ampersand after the conjunctive comma? And then all of a sudden I'm like triggered to notes in my script writing.
Well, and it's funny too because Barrett's definitely like he likes correct grammar. Let's just say
yes,
that.
he does. Like, figure out your fucking syntax. And I'm like, this is how Barrett feels about my scripts. So I had to kind of calm down a little bit. And
he's much more professorial though. What about you, Jonathan? Did you have anything else from the video?
Well, you mentioned that, but specifically with the sentence, I just loved how he started that wire collaboration separated by a comma. That was my favorite part of that whole thing. But even though I know he's making fun, I got to mention the shout out to Raider Nation, Silver and Black Attack, baby. That's always fun. And Gaga she looks like a Raiders fan, so maybe she is. But yeah,
could be.
She's a huge heavy metal fan. If you guys didn't know that, huge heavy metal fan. Yeah.
I'm a fan of the heavier metals. All right, let's move on to CinemaSins. We will go with Birds of Prey, the fantabulous something or other of Harley Quinn is the full title, or was the full title. And I think it changed to Harley Quinn: Birds of Prey at one point, and then later changed to Live, Die, Repeat. I have no idea where the title is now. But we're going to just call it Birds of Prey. It was an Atkinson Dicer script. Chris and I wrote on this. I saw Birds of Prey, obviously, before I watched this. I think, Jonathan, you've seen it as well.
Oh, yeah. Chris and I did a mini pod on it. So, yeah.
Do we want to start with Chris's thoughts on the movie and kind of go from there? What did Chris have to say?
Who knew you could be 50 times better than a Suicide Squad and still somewhat lacking?
That's true. That's a good point.
I like that. He said he's fine with an average or perfectly average DC movie at this point. And then he goes into a series of people's names here. So I'm going to apologize in advance for butchering it and not getting it correct.
Okay. Do you want us to correct you if we know?
I won't remember the correction later on.
It's birds.
But yes.
Birds is how you say the first word.
Oh, okay.
Of.
What's this one? BOOSTED. I know what STDs are and I know what BOOBs are, but I don't know this word.
What?
That wasn't funny. That wasn't funny to you guys.
What did you spell boosted?
I thought you were really asking something, so I was confused.
Yeah, I was too. I was like, that's boosted. And why are you talking about STDs and boobs? I'm so confused.
Guys, I was trying to make fun that I don't know how to read.
Oh, got it. I'm the one who doesn't know how to read. You got to keep your inside jokes. You got to keep your running jokes set. Consistent. Thank you. All right, we've had enough.
It's boosted by Margot Robbie's performance and a handful of good support from Journey Smollett Bell, Rosie Perez, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Very well done. Very well done. Yeah, you did great.
Thanks. For me, there's a sin here that's probably unverifiable, but I'm fine with it. They have this big fight in an evidence room. The evidence room is so huge that there are cars in it. The only problem is there doesn't seem to be a place where cars can go in and out of the building. I ran that scene back about 3 or 4 times looking for possibilities, and I can allow that there's some garage door of some sort that the cameras didn't capture, but considering where the cars were parked, I could not see a spot where they drive them through. In many instances, if I can't absolutely verify it, I'll move on. But this seemed like they built a set, wheeled some cars into it, and forgot to build an entrance exit that would make sense. Believe me, I watch very closely. I love that.
Yeah.
I kind of like it. I imagine, I guess, Chris sort of in front of this 75-inch screen, and he's got like a little magnifying glass, and he's just like looking over the screen or something.
Yeah,
because he said very closely in such big bold terms. He goes on to say, I even debated whether an evidence room would store cars. Usually they put those in a parking lot, an impound of some sort like that. I think having a big set of unguarded doors or garage door would be security risk for an evidence room. And I nearly wrote a whole paragraph about that. But considering the scant evidence, I spared everyone that nonsense.
Why did we go?
Shut up.
Okay.
Because listen, I have to read these things. I've got to make it interesting.
Chris all of a sudden turned into an English professor or something.
If he doesn't want to be an English professor, then he needs to join us on the show.
Fair enough.
Send me some audio. We'll just clip their audio in. That's probably a good idea.
We could do that. Jonathan, what did you think of the movie?
I liked it. I didn't love it. I'm basically, I think Chris and I both gave it about, if I remember correctly, we gave it like a B- or something.
That feels about right.
And I think I haven't watched it again, but watching the video, I mean, I saw a lot of it again, and it kind of felt about the same. I think Margot Robbie is the best thing in the current DCEU movie universe, and I'm sure that's gonna offend somebody. But I mean, I love Gal Gadot, and is it Gal Gadot? Gal Gadot?
It's technically Gadot, I think, but but I think people, it's.
And so, I mean, I totally get if people would go with that, or there's a couple other possibilities, but she just owns this role. It's kind of like Ryan Reynolds with Deadpool. It's kind of in that level where I think she's just really and she's such a great actress. Gosh, she's incredible, and she's really good in this. Also, the original run of Birds of Prey, which was like in the late 90s, early aughts, that's one of my all-time favorite comic books. So that excited me. Now, Harley Quinn's not really a part of that. But I get why she's in the movie. I mean, I totally get why they decided to start this universe by inserting her into it. I'm perfectly fine with that. I do think some of the other characters get shortchanged because of her, though, especially Winstead's character. which is unfortunate. But overall, though, it's fun. There's some good action scenes. I didn't really care for Ewan McGregor's performance, but I also that had a lot to do with what they did with Black Mask. He's not a second-rate Joker, for instance, in the comics, where he kind of is in this movie.
It's a weird
I did
performance.
Like whoever played his, I can't remember the actor's name that played his side, like his.
I know who you're talking about.
But I don't know. It was fun. It was overall, it was a perfectly fine movie. I didn't love it, but it's probably one of the better DCEU movies for sure.
You're talking about Chris Messina.
Yes, Chris Messina, who I love.
Yeah,
he was also in the M. Night Shyamalan produced Devil. He's really good in that movie. But anyways.
Yeah, I there's a lot to like here. You can really, this is another great example of watching Suicide Squad and then watching this and seeing the subtle differences between a male gaze and a female gaze.
Oh, yes.
With her character, and sometimes not so subtle differences. And I just Kathy Yan, I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, but directed this, and I think she did a really good job.
I agree.
There's a lot of great stuff here. The action is better here than even Marvel movies in some of the scenes. That warehouse action scene is really fun, and you have a complete sense of scale, complete sense of geography. You know what's going on, and there's a lot of cleverness to it. I really enjoyed that. I actually think the chemistry between the Birds of Prey women is really good, and I was sad we didn't have more of it. Like, they don't all get together until the very end, and it's one of those movies where I was like, this is a good movie. Not a great movie, but I had a good time with it. But the way they came together at the end almost was like, but I really kind of want a sequel because I want to see the actual Birds of Prey movie. Like, I want to see them do stuff. And the only problem with that is that this is a Harley Quinn movie, not really a Birds of Prey movie. And so once you do a Birds of Prey movie, you lose Margot Robbie, who is also one of the best things about this movie. So it's kind of a weird thing that they did here where the movie is kind of two things, right? It's either Birds of Prey or Harley Quinn, and it works as is. I'm just not sure where it goes from here.
I agree. Well, and the other problem I had with the movie was at the beginning, and I think I talked about this on the mini pod, was what bothered me was they felt like they had to wrap up the Suicide Squad storyline with her,
right?
Like her and the Joker.
Yeah.
So that takes some time you have to just sit there, and it's kind of, who cares at that point? You know, Joker's not in the movie or anything, so it just kind of becomes tiresome. But yeah, no, I agree with everything you're saying.
I also think this movie is a much better example of how you take a PG-13 property and make an R-rated movie with it. Much better than like Logan or some of the other instances we've seen, because it felt like the character, and we'd even send it, the character all of a sudden has a potty mouth, that they didn't have in the last movie. But at the same time, it's one of those things where it never felt like it was forced. It just felt like this is all plot or character based. Swearing or whatever the case may, violence or whatever the case may be. It didn't feel to me like it was pigeonholed in there.
And I know what you're saying, because I remember having conversations with Chris about Logan where it just seems kind of excessive with the F-bombs and stuff. But God, I love Logan.
Yeah, Logan's a great movie too. I'm just saying this. Yeah. I think this is a better example of how you do that. Now, Danae, I know you're a Harley Quinn fan, right? Like, as far as the comics go and that kind of thing, but
from the Batman animated series days. So we're talking about like,
well, that's where she was introduced to. She was not in the comics first.
Yeah, and she just had this really different type of personality. Obviously, she's a Catwoman is sort of villainous as well, but she sort of rides that line of villain, but then also helps Batman. But then Harley, and even Poison Ivy to a certain degree, I guess she's pretty villainous as well. And I liked her too, because I am a hippie at heart. Somewhere in there, I definitely there is a alternate timeline where Danae went full on hippie at one point in time. And so I can look back on certain characters that I really enjoyed, and I'm like, that's why I was drawn to that one, because she was super plant-like, So I guess she's very villain as well. But Harley Quinn was different. I don't know. Maybe it's because Joker was the big bad guy of that animated series. And so seeing somebody that's always with him that, is just fun and intriguing. I don't know why I liked her so much. But I did. And so that's kind of where I first liked her. However, I've had no desire to watch any of these movies. And so drink up, because I didn't see them.
I will shout out, though, while we're talking about Harley Quinn, the Harley Quinn show that is on DCU. I mean, not DCU, the DC Universe app, the streaming service.
Yeah.
Is amazing. And it is very rated R. Like, it is not for kids, but it's a cartoon. It's animated. And it's hilarious, though. Just so funny.
I can't, and please let's not get into an HBO Max conversation because we don't have time for that right now. But I can't believe the stuff that's not on there, like that, for instance. Like, it just, I know what they're doing. I get the strategy, but I like Disney's strategy so much better, where it's like everything we have, we're putting it here, and it's like, I just think you get more people to stick around that way. But
I don't want to get in I know what you're saying, and I agree. I'm agree with you. I would prefer everything because then I don't have to have like 30 subscriptions. But at the same time, this is a back-ended thing. I mean, Disney. Because, there's two sides of this, right? Some stuff has to do with contracts, right? Because some stuff they don't have yet is because, like, Netflix has it. And whatever. Like, a lot of those CW shows and stuff.
Right, yeah.
But, so those are two different discussions. But, yeah, it did seem like they said they were going to bring everything over and kind of merge everything, and they didn't really do that. But maybe they're going to.
I think they will eventually.
Yeah, I think they have to.
Yeah. Yeah, I just because they own the Criterion channel too, right? Like, it's just one of those things where they could just put it all in one place.
Yeah, and that was another thing that irritated people too, because they made it seem like they were going to have every Criterion movie on there. It's not even close. Like, they have like 30 or something, and it's the Criterion channel is a much better place to go get that,
including the Criterion edition of the amazing movie Armageddon, which people forget is a Criterion release.
That is not currently on the Criterion channel, but it is a Criterion movie. You are correct.
Because I am
Criterion
interested,
channel is outstanding, though.
Because I am interested in Harley. Like, there's part of me that it happened as I was watching the Sins video, where I'm watching it to see what happened rather than watching it to remember that we're going to be talking about it on BTS.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to figure out, like, oh, what is this movie? You know, what are they doing in this movie? And so I did find that interesting a little bit. I guess she gets a girl squad in this movie.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, a girl squad forms around her, basically.
She is pretty much a villain in this movie, though. Like,
but she's been a villain from the start, right?
Yeah, I know. But like, you could look at this and think that the movie. I thought going into this, the movie was going to make her more of a good guy, but she pretty much stays a villain the whole time.
But she's a villain with beanbags and a bat. Okay, so she doesn't have a gun, and
that seems weird.
That seems weird.
So when I started to like write down the sins that were like, I'm like, oh, I need to be seeing this. I was already at sin 60. I just want to let you know.
That's fine. What do you got? Let's move into it.
I think at that point there was just something being pointed out about that she had been in jail during Suicide Squad. Like, it was like voted for Bernie, that whole thing. Pointing out like, okay, so but this is what was happening in that timeline. That's when I really started to click over into, oh, I'm supposed to be doing stuff here.
I loved Chris's observations on those things that flashed up, just whether or not they could be true. And I thought that was great.
Is it called, what's it called? Is it a mnemonic when you, like the Margot makes musical moment, Sin?
That's alliteration.
Alliteration.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. I didn't look that up because, like I said, I didn't prepare.
I will say something if you're watching this movie to keep in mind, though. The majority of it is from her perspective. So you kind of like that kind of plays into that would have been a hard thing to send for me because you kind of have to play into the fact that she's telling the story. So even if it seems like crazy or sinful, at the same time you have to I would think you'd have to question, well, but if she's telling it, isn't that kind of the point?
Yeah, that was why I included the perhaps you've kept yourself up at night wondering if unreliable narration is not a sin. Guess what? It still is.
Yeah, I did enjoy that. That was great. I'm sorry, Danae, I did not mean to interrupt.
Oh, that's okay. So the woo! Oh no, things are falling in my studio. Sorry about that. The iteration that the Margot makes musical moments manically mimicking Madonna, that whole series.
Yeah,
that was super fun. I really liked that.
I will tell you, I love alliteration sins. I think this is well known, and this one, as with all of them, starts with one simple thing. I notice that the things I am talking about start with the same letter, and if a couple of them start with the same letter, like for this instance, Marilyn Monroe, Margot Robbie, Madonna, then I just go from there, and I'm like, okay, how do I go ahead and alliterate this?
How do you get in masterpiece and murdering and momentum?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it worked well. I was really impressed with that. the whole 13-year-old thing was throwing me off. There's like this 13-year-old that's part of this like murdering people with dynamite. Like beanbags over here, but dynamite's okay over here. But the pointing out like that she would be placed with the same criminals and just the convenience of all the doors opening at the same time. And then there was this one moment, this one sin that mirrors a sin that I just recently wrote. So this happens all again. All it's so freaking weird to me. But there's a moment whenever it's like, please call and schedule an appointment with your doctor for
one at a time itis.
The one at a time itis. And I have a sin where I super go into that same thing. And it's very much like taking a pill and being medicated. I think it's for one that's coming up.
Nice save.
Whoa. I almost popped out, y'all. So I really, that one just kind of freaked me out.
Can I just say I love the puns that hit me in that one. Call ahead and schedule an appointment. We can't take you all at once.
Yes.
And then together we can end this horrible disease. I just that made me laugh because it's just stuff that you hear on those commercials and it works so perfectly.
It really did. Also pointing out, like, again, this whole weapon thing we talked about earlier. Here comes again, but the whole like keep the girl alive after they had shot at them with like huge guns.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff I really love. And then of course like how they're not approaching her. They're like coming up close to her so that she can hit him with the baseball, even though they have guns and they should just be shooting her from a distance.
Yeah.
Hey, that's something Harley Quinn would drive. Let's go chase that. And
yep.
This sin says fascinating. Was that on purpose?
No, it's just something that comes out.
Was that your sin though?
It's just a word. Which one says fascinating? I don't know.
Sin number 87. It's just.
Do you remember the number? Right?
It was about. I took screenshots this time. Where they describe like the kind of food she likes, and the sin is just
that was a Chris sin. Yeah, the whole sin was fascinating. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I was like, is that Aaron's?
Nope,
because that's
Chris.
his name. That's his. I mean, that's his word.
It's my middle name. Aaron Fascinating
There's also
Dicer.
something that I saw, and I was wondering if you guys, I don't know, maybe I'll look for this in other movies, where she goes to the store, and the sin, is all about like stopping at the grocery store as a wanted person and all that. And I wondered if they did that because she's female. Because I wonder if in movies and TV, we often think, oh, where can the woman have a conversation? And they just immediately think a grocery store is a great place for that. Because you do see that a lot in
maybe
shows with women. Like a woman moment is going to be at the salon or it's going to be at the grocery store. But do we ever see guys having a conversation in a scene in a grocery store?
I don't think in real life I've ever seen anyone having a conversation in a grocery store other than if they're on the phone. But
so
no,
true.
I don't know. Maybe not. But you will see guys having conversations in like liquor stores and stuff. I think it's just. But I think you're right. I think they're just giving a weird setting. But what was frustrating about that, I remember this when I watched the movie, was that she's like everybody wants to kill her. So, and she's just walking down the aisle in the grocery store like nothing. And she's very obvious like who she is. Like she's not trying to hide herself. But yeah, as why they put it in the grocery store, you could be right.
I just wonder if that's one of those assumptions,
It might be. It does have a plot reason. I mean, they're trying to get her to get some laxative in her so they can get the diamond
True
out.
Story.
Yeah, but you can pick that up at a CVS pharmacy. You don't have to go to the grocery store.
No, totally.
But she needed some stuff.
And in the scene, it fills a character beat as well because they're trying to tie the two of them together. Like they're trying to have a moment for them to bond, those two characters. And so robbing the grocery store is that moment, or one of those moments. So yeah,
I wonder, like, if it was a dude, and this is just super me, just like spitballing. If it was a dude, needed to have a bonding moment with another dude, and he had to take a shit because he needed a laxative, right? I don't know what for, but they need to have. Is there some other clever thing that they would think of and be like, "Hey, let's go have them shopping at a grocery store because that's what women do."
You could be right. I'm not saying you're wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
Like
at all.
it might be. They might be
Never
like,
thought
"Oh,
about
what's funny? What makes someone shit? Oh, a whole bunch of coffee." Okay, so they go into the bar and they go to the bar and they ask the bartender if he has coffee.
So here's an example of a similar situation in was it Hitch, where Will Smith had to go to the drugstore because he was having an allergic reaction, that kind of thing. I mean,
I don't know.
Who knows?
It's just, it was a weird thing that popped into my head when I saw it. I just thought it would be interesting to just chat it out with you guys.
Sure.
But as far as
we brought up Hitch.
Yeah.
That's where we went.
One of the greatest movies of all time. The last one that I referenced that I really enjoyed was the outline of the guns and then pointing out that it had been spray painted.
Yeah.
I've never thought about that.
That's ridiculous. It's just like, why wouldn't just there not being guns in there be enough of a
Right.
visual?
It's like, do you think we were so stupid that we didn't know there used to be guns in there? Like, you had to actually paint the shapes?
But it's such an interesting concept to think, how did that get there, if not by spray paint? Maybe it's supposed to be that they sat there for so long that it got dirty, and the only places it wasn't dirty is behind it, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
maybe that's how it would naturally happen in real life. But clearly this is just, someone had like a little cardboard cutout of a gun and they just sprayed it over. So I love that.
Absolutely.
So, but great job.
What about
It was a fun video.
Jonathan?
I had a couple other ones that she didn't mention. All hyena dealers are rapists. was very funny. I mean, maybe don't play roller derby. What a punk ass. I thought that was very funny.
Nice shout out to our friend Jeremy Simser.
Yeah. Cocaine power was nice. And then I love just the straightforward stuff, like making a kid an accessory to murder.
Yeah.
Yep.
Also, that usual suspects outtake was amazing. That worked so well with that scene. Like, it just lined up perfectly, all the dialogue and the focus on the different characters. That was great.
Yeah, this one was a lot of fun. I will also mention the he's a beaver, damning things is in his DNA. Enjoyed that one. And the reference to the biker guys, a Harley, seems like something they would absolutely be interested in. I thought that was
that was really funny.
Fun as well. Yeah, lots of good stuff here. Had a really good time with this one. Who knew so many actors that played the Joker had a name that started with J? That's a very, very common thing, apparently.
Mr. J.
All right, let's move on to Rush Hour. This is a Scott Share joint. Jeremy M. Barrett writing on this one. It has been a long time since I've seen this movie.
Yes.
I want to hear what Jeremy and Barrett had to say about this. Let's hear that now.
Let's go now live.
We're going now live to Danae Hughes, who has some thoughts from Jeremy Scott.
We're gonna have the weather on the 8s.
Yeah. Can I do like a helicopter fly-in?
Sure.
Okay, then I can't do the actual reading though. If I do that, okay. He said, "I liked the first Rush Hour when it came out, but I now cannot explain why."
It's so true.
That was my thought too.
I can explain why, but go ahead.
He said it's very little good Jackie Chan action. Basically, only one scene where he fights baddies while trying to save artifacts. It's racist as hell. It's lazy comedy. It's just a mess. He enjoyed taking digs at Ratner, who deserves them, and then says, enjoyed seeing the movie a lot, actually. I just don't enjoy the movie. What a time capsule. Count the race-based jokes, and you will run out of fingers.
I probably seriously watched this movie like 40 times, but I haven't probably seen it. I probably haven't seen it since then. Like Aaron was saying, he hadn't seen it in forever.
Oh, man, it's been a long time, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, and watching the video, I mean, there were moments where I could be like, yeah, I remember that being funny. I think Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker are genuinely decent together, though. Like, I think that's why you liked, right? I mean,
yes.
And Jackie Chan, even with little Jackie Chan action, getting any Jackie Chan action, like the scene where he's trying to save the artworks, the pieces of art, stuff like that is just awesome. Like I was really into Jackie Chan back then.
Yeah, me too.
Watching a lot of his Hong Kong cinema and the stuff he was making in America. Because I think right after this he made that Shanghai Noon or whatever with Owen Wilson, which I do think Rush Hour is better than that, if I remember correctly. I remember hating both of the Rush Hour sequels though. So this back and forth between them did not last long, did not carry over into the sequels. But I don't know. If I watched it now, I'm sure I'd be like Jeremy. And there is a lot of cringe in some of the interactions and like playing the gong when Jackie Chan shows up.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's just amazing to me how things change so quickly and how clueless we are. And just, I don't know. It's hard to tell people who have grown up in this era. Like, it's hard to explain that era because it feels so wrong now. But the idea,
casual racism.
Yeah, the idea was, and I am not trying to defend, I promise I'm not trying to defend anything, but I'm just trying to give you kind of an insight into what living through it was like. Living through it was basically, and this isn't true across the board, but in cases like this movie specifically, it was like we're all on the same level, we can all make fun of each other. Like it was kind of one of those things where it was like, we're pals make fun of each other. And so that included racism, that included ageism, weightism, sexism, all those things. It was just like, and what you forget when you take that mindset is that even when you're kidding, things hurt. Even when it's a joke between friends, you don't know sometimes how deep that goes. And so there is an extra level of caution that I'm glad we take now with those kind of things. And so it's hard to gather when you've grown up in this mindset that other mindset was just something accepted by good people. Good people thought of it as just joking around, Well, you look at stand-up comics. I mean, like Eddie Murphy took a lot of flack because he was talking about looking back when he's going to do this new stand-up thing with Netflix. Mm-hmm. He was like looking back at, his old stuff, and he's just like, I've grown since then, and there's so much of that I wouldn't say now, because he's, it's a normal growth, right? And then people gave him flack saying, well, it was different then, but. Yeah,
I think,
weird.
I think when you're trying to relate to somebody that you don't understand, whether it's a different, race or gender, you sometimes lean onto humor and you point out something. Like think about growing up as a girl growing up and hanging out with guys that they point to your boobs and they make fun of your boobs because that's like an obvious difference and they're trying to figure out how to make it make sense in their mind, and humor is used. And like this is something that we do, I think, to each other, even in our family. Sometimes with my husband and I, if there's something uncomfortable, we'll try to make a joke about it and figure out how we feel about it. It wasn't something, I think, to your point, Aaron, where we were aware that even doing that in a joking manner is discounting something. It's putting somebody down. So I think I'm glad where we are as a culture right now. It needs to be something we talk about because casual racism is something that does have long-term effects, and it's not funny because there's so many conversations that you can have now. If you don't understand something about a culture, we now have access with the internet and to incredible people who can have conversations about how they grew up in a way that you can completely understand, and you can actually find a way to relate to people. It's just a different era. Like back in the 90s, you couldn't just turn to someone and have a conversation about what it would be like to grow up as a person of color because there wasn't anyone that had any of that reference, at least where I grew up. I grew up in the Midwest, so there's just white people everywhere, We had one person of color in my high school at one point in time. There was just one. So
can you imagine how that one person felt in your high school though? Like, I mean, just like you think back now. I mean, maybe it was perfectly fine. God, I hope it was.
I hope it was too.
Yeah, but you just think and you're like, wow, that's cool.
Yeah, and I know his name. I know his name in my mind, and I often wonder. I'm like, hey, I wonder whatever happened to Eric. And if I probably could go find him on social media if I wanted to, and ask him like, hey, what was your perspective growing up as the only person of color in this grade? And maybe that would be an interesting conversation to have. But when I was watching the Sins video for Rush Hour, I don't remember if I ever watched this. I remember Jackie Chan being this big like crossover person for me, like one of those characters that sort of appears in your pop culture that does something new and different. And of course, martial arts. I hadn't seen anyone really do martial arts before Jackie Chan, I don't think. And it was humor.
He was. I mean, late '90s, he was huge. Like, I mean, I don't know that people that weren't around then know how big of a star he was because they had been they released a lot of his foreign films dubbed here, and they made like a lot of money. Like, people were going and watching dubbed Hong Kong movies with him.
Yeah, he broke through, and so to see him like in a comedy, a cop comedy featuring two people of color, I loved that. But then hearing them make these casual kind of references back and forth now is super cringy. I don't know what it would have felt like back then. I don't remember, but
some of it still plays okay. Like, I mean, I do still think that do you understand just because the way Chris Tucker's delivers the do you understand the words coming out of my mouth, I think that still, is still pretty effective. I think Brett Ratner doesn't help this movie either, though. I think
wait, who's Brett Ratner?
I think
a
that's
director.
a big part of why people look more poorly on this movie.
It's a interesting thing to wade in on. I think now we understand so much more about the idea of privilege and the idea of power and how that impacts the ability to joke around or say things about, and the idea of punching up instead of punching down, and why one is okay and one is not, or it might be okay in some situations and not in others. So yeah, I love it. I love maturing, and I love maturing as a culture. I love maturing as a person. And at the end of the day, we want to make sure that if somebody is hurt by something we do, we stop doing it, right? Like, isn't that the goal? Like, that's just so to go back and see this and see how unaware we were of things that might be hurting another person, or,
it's almost like this movie could be an example, like, and I can see a class being like, okay, we're going to watch clips of Rush Hour and learn about casual racism and learn about like why this is not okay. It's an example piece. Like, if I was to watch this with Justin or anyone, I would pause it sort of at that moment. There's several moments and have a conversation. What do you think about that? Because that to me is offensive, and maybe not an opportunity to kind of show what an example of casual racism in a movie that has an impact. Because what ends up happening is then you've got all these people who go watch it and then they make that same joke because it's now like something that they all have together, and then it just sort of permeates sort of culture in that way because it was okay on screen here. And that happens with all kinds of things. You see it and you do it. So
we're having some of those conversations right now, going through Dick Van Dyke again with sexism in the home, and you watch a lot of those old sitcoms, and the head of household stuff is really interesting, and to see that in perspective of how it looks today and how we think of it today. I think one of the episodes we watched last night, like she was dancing on the show, and she did such a great job that the director of the show wanted to ask her to dance for the whole season. And the whole episode is about him like wrestling with that idea that she wouldn't be home making, dinner and doing all that stuff. And the director of the show asks him if it's okay to ask her to dance for the whole, like, everything had to go through the husband. Yeah. He couldn't say anything to her. And just that stuff that, now we would look at and go, wow, I mean, is she not a person that can talk for herself? Like, it's just, it's really interesting to see that stuff.
I would throw in, though, if like the other like the devil's advocate kind of look at this is if the character itself should if you're writing a racist character for a purpose in the movie itself.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
You have things like that, and I don't think like anything that I really think Brett Ratner has a lot to do with this, but I really don't think anything like Chris Tucker says is not something that character wouldn't say in 1998. It doesn't make it. It's still cringy.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's just the other perspective. Well, and like Spike Lee took a lot of shit for Black Klansman because he made the cops less, since the cops
some
were
of
less
them,
of a since the cops were less of a focus in that movie, and the main villain was David Duke, he didn't put as much emphasis on the way the cops reacted or acted towards the people of color, and so a lot of people said that wasn't accurate, and it's like it's interesting sometimes.
We joked about bringing you down earlier, and we certainly don't mean to do that, but I do think these conversations are important. We try to have fun on this show, so we will move on, but I don't think my heart would be clear if I didn't say this is also impacted by some very awful things that are going on right now in this country, and
100%.
And so it is. This conversation is important, and at the same time, I don't want to sit here and pretend like we're solving anything, because we're having a conversation about our own weakness in this area, our own maturity, trying to get better and understand our privilege, understanding our power. And so I want to get back to the laughs, but I did want to say that because it has just been horrible to watch some of the stuff that has happened over the last couple days.
This week, you can't say I hate racism
right?
without people arguing.
It's It's ridiculous.
It's a bit mind blowing, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, even I feel like I should never be surprised, but it's every week these days. I'm shocked.
So how about the jokes on this video, guys?
This video is great, by the way.
It
How
really
do we transition? How do we transition to lamp?
We just did. I'm going to mention some others.
Somebody that complained about that in the comments. Did you see that?
No,
The
somebody
lamp
complained about
complaint?
lamp.
Well, they just said that like, oh, CinemaSins isn't even pointing out sins anymore. They're just saying bullshit about lamps.
Well, welcome, welcome to
And
the
then
channel.
somebody else was like, have you really been watching them this whole time? Like that was clearly a joke.
I personally wrote down that I sort of love that we've got this rage focus for Jeremy to sort of rage focus on lamps. You know, it's like he's got
Who
this
has
little
that many
laser
lamps?
eyes.
It's the same thing as candles. Like
Yeah.
nobody
Yeah.
has that many lamps that close together.
The lighting
Yeah.
coordinator does. That's who.
Yeah, exactly.
They have a lighting budget and they were flexing.
That's right. I really loved more than any sin probably this week the La La Land dum dums with the traffic jam, where it just shows a traffic jam and Jeremy's just like dum 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 da dum da dum 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 dum. That kind of stuff just slays me, and so yeah, I really dug that. Some modern day leaders also struggle to tell the difference between a president, an emperor, and a king. I thought was very well said and well pointed. The opposite of Chekhov's gun. This is like Spock's gun. Which is
also interesting because are you about to say that?
The fact that this comes from the inside thing that happened where we had the Chekhov disagreement, which I think we've talked about on this show, where it was like, that's not how Chekhov is spelled, because he was thinking Star Trek. And so I'm almost sure that kind of comes from that discussion. And I just thought that was really fun. So.
I was going to say in an upcoming TV Sins video, though, we do a riff on Chekhov's gun.
Yes.
And that was your idea.
It's just the gift that keeps on giving. What about you guys? What did you like in the video?
I really liked Jeremy's delivery of putting a lit joint in your pocket, like just how almost personally offensive that is. Just like, who would do that? I really thought that was kind of funny.
If it's still lit, you're wasting it, right? I mean,
right, exactly.
That's
like
the whole
so
point.
many things to that, yeah.
There's so even though I don't remember if I've watched this movie ever, there's the scene where they're dancing kind of together and they're bonding and they're sort of the way that this whole entire sinning points out how really ridiculous their bonding would be from the beginning, because they're trying to rescue someone, they're stopping and eating, they're having conversations about their dads and like and friendship sort of sin pointing that out. But the point where they're listening to music in their car and then they walk away down the street and the music is still going and questioning, okay, so then they leave their car on and so they're just walking away from their car that has keys in it. Like, that was just fun.
Yeah.
Fun little question. But my favorite one was when we point out that the subtitles say titty, 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 get those asses out of here. And there's this whole sit about it. And I'm like, wait. What? What does he say? Like, that's what the subtitles say is titty, 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 get your asses out of here. I just can't imagine him sitting up on that just going titty, titty, titty.
Yeah.
Oh, he does. Oh, absolutely. That is
imagine
absolutely something Chris Tucker would say, yeah.
Yeah, I was
But
going to say,
why?
I think Chris Tucker still says that probably.
What does it even mean? Oh my God. Anyway.
That's just his comedy. That's just his. I mean, that is very like, if you've ever seen Chris Tucker do stand up, like his character in Rush Hour. I mean, that's him. Like,
oh
I
my
mean,
God,
that's how he does. Like, that's how he does comedy. I'm not saying, I don't know if that's him personally. Like, I don't know if he's like just yelling that on the streets, but that's definitely how he does his comedy.
Yeah. What about you, Jonathan?
I liked not watching The Road, which that seems to be something that's popped up recently on various, along with The Lamp. We seem to be doing. I know Danae did a run of that on. I can't remember what that was we worked on together. Were you just was it Supernatural maybe? Where they were having that conversation. Yes, it was Supernatural because Dean and Sam had this like crazy long conversation in a car while Dean was driving and he was never looking. He was just looking at Sam the whole time.
Look at the road.
But they should have crashed. The how did Lee subdue and get the waiter's uniform without the tray spilling? I thought that was a good thing that they pointed out. And did you guys mention the dial tone? I'm sorry if you did. I don't remember you guys mentioning that.
No.
That was hilarious too. Just playing up on the idea that never happens after 1998. that when phones hang up now, we know that there's no dial tone sound, and they never do that. And even though we send that constantly, but I thought that was really funny. And then the "This is Los Angeles, only 4 years after the bus. Is Keanu seriously not still around?"
Yeah,
I thought that was great.
It's good stuff. It's a really
Speed
great
is
video.
awesome, by the way. If you want to go watch a great action comedy cop movie,
Speed
watch
holds up, right? Speed holds up well.
Speed holds up very well.
Yeah, I
Jan
agree.
de Bont, man, he took a dive after that, but God, that made it seem like he was going to be like the next great action director.
He did Twister, right? Twister's pretty good. Twister holds up okay.
I mean, well, Twister's better than like The Haunting for sure, but Twister's okay. But I don't know, Speed was just so good.
Yeah, yep. I was really impressed what he did with the right hand red circle, left hand green circle. It was pretty impressive movie. All right, let's move on to keeping tabs.
The internet is a communications tool used the world over where people can come together to bitch about movies and share pornography with one another.
Ha ha! Oh, jeez.
This is the most public yet of my many humiliations.
We're each going to tell a funny story from putting together the content for the week. Maybe a Google search, some strange research, deleted sin, whatever the case may be.
I wrote on nothing this week. I have nothing.
All right. Jonathan's got nothing. Danae, what about you? Danae is singing.
My research was all about Zuko because I realized
Danny
that
Zuko from Greece.
Zuko in the Avatar: The Last Airbender.
100%. I realized that he was Rufio from Hook. The voice actor, and I didn't know that, and so that was sort of like an interesting, this guy, and then writing the sin about Rufio and Bangarang and all that stuff was really, really fun. So his name is Dante Basco, and he's really interesting. Follow on Twitter, and it's fun to go check him out on Instagram and just think about that. Hook, which I loved when I was a kid, and Rufio, because I think that was the first time I remember watching a person die.
Oh, fair
horrible,
enough.
right? Or like that moment of impact whenever you're watching someone like, hey, you can't kill Rufio, and then he did. So
you ready for a very strange connection? Mm-hmm. If the comments are to be believed, I haven't researched this on my own. I suppose I could do that. This could be a friend of a friend, urban legend kind of thing. Not only is Rufio the voice of Zuko in The Last Airbender, but his niece is the little girl in Birds of Prey that we just talked about too. How's that for a connection?
Whoa.
So, yeah,
interesting.
So research that, find out if I'm right, and if I am, be in awe. So interesting stuff. And my favorite part about those kind of sins is the person every single time in the comments that's like, you do know that's the same person, right?
Like, yes, that's why we wrote it.
That's why we wrote it. That's, yes. But thank you.
People.
Pay
attention. Get on our level.
This is, I'm just going to call this category, which unfortunately happens more than I would like, the you done messed up Aaron category. This goes back to the research I did on the Hyrulean economy because those gems in Rick and Morty look so much like rupees. It's like the design of them is the design of the rupees from the Zelda games. And I was like, oh, that's fun. So I'm going to do some research and, make some sins or whatever. And I mentioned the Flamebreaker armor from Breath of the Wild and that kind of stuff. And I'm like, people are going to love this. And instead, they get hung up on two things that I may have messed up. One of them, which of course they do because nitpicking the nitpickers, why wouldn't you? One is the color. And this is the interesting one because many, many people looked at this and didn't bother to say, those are blue, not green, or those are green, not blue, because they look like they could be either blue or green. And when I was writing this, I was like, do I call them blue? Do I call them green? And I think in my head, I knew no matter which way I went, somebody was going to be like, those aren't blue, those are green, or those aren't green, those are blue. Anyways, and because of that, I messed up the amounts. And so I said 10 times as much instead of 20 times as much. And so the comments are just full of people being like, actually, red rupees are worth 20 times less than the green rupees, or whatever it might be. So,
my God.
Yes, you are correct. I done messed up, Aaron, and that's on me. But I wanted to mention I did actually research that. I just apparently.
I feel like we need a soundbite. This needs to be like if it happens a segment, we have the soundbite from Key and Peele.
Yes, that would work very well. Let's move on to the comment section.
I want to know what you're thinking.
I appreciate your honesty. You're a real straight shooter.
You are the ones who are the ball lickers.
We're going to each look at a comment from the week's material on YouTube. YouTube comments get a bad reputation. We're here to bring that reputation back up. You guys are amazing. Thank you for your comments. Like this one from Tyler on the Avatar video. This is my favorite format right now, which is this person says and then CinemaSins says. In this case, it's Tom Cruise. No one takes bigger life-threatening risks than me. CinemaSins does this video. It's like, I love that category of comments that are like, how dare you? Because most of them are done really understanding, like, what goes on. So thank you for that, Tyler. That made me giggle. I liked that. What about you guys?
Mine comes from Twitter this week from at Green Arrow 07, who says, so if you listen to the CinemaSins BTS podcast and don't listen to the outtakes, you're definitely missing out. Tonight, I was on my way home and was listening to last week's episode, and the outtakes had me rolling from laughter, which was dangerous because I was driving.
Yes. So. What do you got, Jonathan, for your comment?
This one, I guess I had a few, but I'll just read this one since we have a question. I loved on this. I mostly loved this just because I love the way he ended this comment. But Alan Moss on Birds of Prey said, "It's funny. This had the makings of a good film, but it often felt like it was stitched together like a Frankenstein monster. All the female characters felt like they were from different movies, especially the wonderful Huntress. Robbie nailed it, but it was like the producer said to the writer, say this is a Birds of Prey movie. Maybe you should put some Birds of Prey in it. And the writer said, what? I just want to write Harley Quinn. Also, hyenas are so 1998. That just had me dying, so I had to mention that.
They can't be too 1998. You got Tiger King going on right now with all the big cats, so which we made reference of in the video.
I just don't know where he came up with that date. Now I want to know what
was it. Lion King?
1998.
I was thinking maybe it was Lion King.
I was going to say Lion King, but that was earlier. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
It was 94.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Very nice. Hey, we have a question this week. Came to us from Twitter. This, I believe.
At Volk Tyler.
Oh, you know what? I said Tyler on my comment, and it wasn't. It was Gerard. I think I just cut and pasted things weird. So
how dare you? How dare you?
I apologize. So Tyler's coming up now. Gerard had the comment that I was mentioning earlier. So here we go.
This is why Aaron doesn't do admin.
That's right. This is why I shouldn't do anything. I should not be trusted.
Oh yeah, we didn't do my admin part of the podcast. Well, let's just do that now.
No, that was purposeful. No. That was.
It's not that interesting, I guess. Huh?
It's like Nedry. It's like Nedry. Danae does admin work. See, nobody cares.
I created another spreadsheet, and I just want to tell you about it.
Anyhow, Tyler says, in honor of Harley Quinn and the Joker breaking up in the DC universe, what is a couple from a TV show or movie you couldn't wait for them to break up? Rachel and Joey from Friends is a strong contender. Any couple from Friends is a strong contender for me, but
Monica
yeah.
and Chandler was fun.
I guess. Yeah, let Moniker. Yeah, let Moniker be happy.
Moniker.
What do you guys have for an answer to this question? I have a very, very clear and obvious one that is just, huge for me, but we can
you
wait.
guys go first then.
Okay. Jonathan, you want to go first?
Sure. Two that popped up in my head immediately were when shows tried to do like the weird like pairings to see how they work and they don't. So like on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Buffy and Spike had a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So you had a vampire slayer dating a vampire.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, I don't know. I personally didn't think that worked very well. And then also on Star Trek The Next Generation, you had Counselor Troy and Worf.
Yes, Trorf.
Which was just felt very.
God.
You had the Marina Sirtis and Jonathan Frakes had such great chemistry and everything, and then they tried to do this weird thing, and they tried to do it with like 7 episodes left in the series. It was like right at the tail end of the series. They just threw this Troy Worf thing together, and thankfully it did not last very long. But that was bizarre.
I agree with both of those, anti-Spuffy and anti-Trorf. I agree. I'll go next. We'll let Danae finish. This is an easy answer for me. It's Mulder and Scully from the X-Files. They are great friends, and when that show decided for them to be romantically interested in each other, the will they or won't they on that show was never needed. It was never important, and I know there's a segment of the fan base that believes otherwise, but I just did not want them to be together. They're just they had such a platonic chemistry, and I don't
agree.
Know.
They felt like brother sister almost, or something. Like they just felt like really good friends.
Yeah,
they felt like you and Danae.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I'm anti what we say, Moley, Scolder. I don't know, whatever that one might be. What about you, Danae?
Well, I couldn't think of any, so that's why I tweeted about it and have a lot of great replies on Twitter. So here we go. From our account CinemaSins BTS, which is our podcast Twitter, I retweeted the question with "How would you answer?" At Scruffy Matt says Korra and Mako, or is it Mako? I can't remember. From the Legends of Korra. I'll never get what she saw in him or what Asami saw in him either, for that matter. Also, Clark and Lana from Smallville was mentioned.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I was hoping that he got together with Chloe, but then Lois was introduced. Oh, well, still an improvement. At Darren WS77 says, if you want to base it off toxic relationships and in bad examples, then it would be Ross and Rachel from Friends.
Yep.
But he's going to go with Jon Snow and his aunt. And that's actually mentioned later also, that couple. At So the Dane says, any relationship that ends in murder.
Sure, fair enough.
At the Ashel Z says Angel Buffy, Alana Stefan, John Daenerys, Cersei Jamie are the few of the big ones. So all of those are really, really good. At Danny J20 says Robin and Barney, which I only know about from watching.
That's a good one, actually. I didn't think about that one.
I thought that was a really good one, too, because we've talked about that before with having to do research and all that good stuff. At Moon River 05, that senior citizen opium growing character from the series Ozark with the 20-year-old kid. And then there was a nice little back and forth conversation going on, like, wait, is that for real? So that was an interesting read.
No, that's definitely for real. I gotta say the show handles it really well, though, and it's not like it's outside the realm of possibility in a power dynamic like that something like that would happen. And so I think this is one I find interesting because it's kind of gross as opposed to those two don't work together, and there's a slight tinge of ageism to that. And I don't know that in the reason, I think somebody mentions this in the Twitter thread, which is if it were a man and a woman the other way, like we've seen so many older men with younger women in movies and TV shows and those kind of things.
Real life.
And it's just kind of, okay, well, that happens. But in this case, it's an older woman and a younger man, and it's all of a sudden, like gross and
grandma
awful
gross.
And grandma.
Yeah. That's some bullshit.
So there's an interesting thing going on there with that one.
That is interesting.
You date the grandma if that's what you want to do, 20-year-old
that's right.
man.
That's right.
Just a few more.
Not your actual grandma. I want to make that clear.
No, that's for Daenerys and Jon.
I like that everybody's saying TV shows. Did anybody say movie? Because I think you immediately go to TV shows, right? Because that's where relationships are built for a long period of time.
Yeah. Skedorwa says Buffy and Angel because they thought Buffy Spike was great, just so you know. A little different opinion there.
There are people that love Buffy Spike, but also doesn't help that was when the show wasn't as good either. So that probably factors in.
We call them spuffists.
At JUNCW says JD and Danny from Scrubs. And so that's another TV show.
Yeah,
and
that's
then
a pretty good one.
At Sviraman says Jon Snow and Daenerys, there was just no chemistry, negative chemistry, a black hole, an eternal chemistryless void. So a little passion there. They interestingly, good thing to point out, they all seem to be more around TV shows, and maybe that is because they play around more with who's going to be matching who.
I mean, maybe like
in movies, I would
maybe
go with
like
you.
Ron and all of a sudden Hermione, although they end up getting like married, but they don't break up. But I always thought that, even in the books, I thought that was weird.
That's a good point. That's a good one.
I think Harry's.
What were you gonna say, Aaron?
I think Harry's relationship in those books is weirder than that. It comes out of nowhere.
The Weasley sister, I can't remember her name all of a sudden.
Yeah,
that's true.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say You've Got Mail is an interesting one. Those two characters would never work together in real life. That's one that kind of came to mind that we've recently seen that I was thinking about. But I think those are all good choices. Way to help us out.
I'll try to ask more questions and tweet more stuff like that because that was for me really fun because I don't think about stuff as easily as you guys do.
I think one more that should be brought up. I didn't want to take it because I thought maybe Danae would use this one because I know you watch Grey's Anatomy, but Derek and Meredith was one I saw mentioned. Like
Meredith.
Like if you just
Meredith.
Yeah.
I could definitely go into that whole. But if I go over into the arena of anything to do with Grey's Anatomy, there's so many things that shouldn't be happening. So we would just.
But I believe, and I quit watching it before this, but I believe the only she got widowed, right? I don't think they actually broke up. Like, I think he died, but I don't remember if they were broken up before that.
No, they were together. Yeah.
Okay,
and the actor decided to leave the show, and then the writer decided to kill him. So,
that's right. Yeah, I remember that story. Yeah,
and it's interesting too because
the scenes on that show, no pun intended.
Another character that just decided to leave this season. How they wrote him out was interesting too.
Oh, are you still watching?
Yeah, I can't.
Oh, I didn't know you were still watching.
It's one of the weird ones where I need to stay up on it because I'm on a streak, and I kind of just have to know what they're gonna do. It's my soap opera. I can't help it.
My wife still watches it, and she even, like, I think last season she rewatched every season up until the present, and like it was crazy because that was a lot too. I mean, that was like 400 episodes or something.
Yeah, it's a big one. So yeah, thanks again, guys, for responding on Twitter.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Super appreciate it.
You can connect with us there at CinemaSins BTS at CinemaSins BTS. All right, let's finish up with some Beyond the Sins.
To infinity and beyond.
Somewhere beyond my wild history.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
We're each going to chat about something else from the world of pop culture that we've seen recently. I will start us off, and if there are not already enough obvious signs that I'm gravitating towards ridiculous television right now, this one will seal the deal. Holey Moley is back, and
oh my God,
boy, do I love this show. There are many reasons. One of them being I love miniature golf. I think it's fun. Second is I love how audacious this show is, and it just keeps ramping up. No pun intended. The obstacles and things that these people have to go through. It's kind of like a combination of a mini golf tournament and Wipeout. If you remember the show Wipeout.
Yeah, I do.
And it's all held together by this amazing announcing team, which is so much fun. I'm not sure if you're a Rob Riggle fan. I am. He is so perfect for this. I'm just having such a great time.
I can imagine he does well on that kind of situation.
He's just so perfectly deadpan about what he's saying about this stuff, and just it's so ridiculous, and like he's treating it like an actual announcing gig and just saying the most ridiculous things with the straightest face. And I don't know. I really love the sense of humor of this show, and I'm actually enjoying some of the mini golf as well.
Who's the other host?
You know what? I don't know his name. I'll look it up, but he is a great straight man to Rob Riggle and does a really good job kind of playing along. So they've got good chemistry too. The other part that's interesting about this season is that his name is Joe Tessitore is the other host's name. I'm not sure if you know him from anything else. The other thing that's really cool about this season, I shouldn't say really cool, interesting about this season is Steph Curry is the executive producer of this show. And so at the end of each episode, Steph is supposed to present the winner with the green jacket, the Holey Moley jacket. And then he also has these interstitials he does where he sits in front of a fireplace and, talks about these, just kind of does. It's almost like Deep Thoughts with Stephen Curry. Like, if you remember the Deep Thoughts, the Jack Handy thing from SNL. And what's fascinating is I think before they were able to film all his stuff, the stay-at-home order hit. And so all of his stuff is just animated now. So it's like... Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, I see what happened here. Your production schedule was for him to be able just to come in for a couple days and shoot like all his stuff. And that was at the end of your production schedule. And this thing hit right when you were hitting that part of it. And so they just had an animator animate that stuff with his voice saying it probably from home. So it's just another one of those examples of how shows are adapting to what's going on now. And it's a fun show. I just really enjoy it.
And Tessitore, he's a broadcaster on ESPN. He's mostly a play-by-play guy, so that makes sense that he's a perfect straight man to Riggle.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're good together. Yeah, I really enjoy them. They make the show for me, honestly. I don't know if I would like the show as much as I do if they weren't there.
I might check it out. I don't know. I just picked watching people play mini golf. Is it just regular? Is it celebrities playing, or is it just
they have celebrity things like celebrity judges, but it's just it's just ridiculous kind of stuff. And unless you see it, it's hard to explain, but it just
Gotcha.
doesn't. It's almost satirical. It almost is so over
Yeah.
the top that it's just, you can tell it's completely making fun of itself. So
I think Danae's doing like yoga. I'm not really sure.
I'm
what's
petting
going-
my dog.
Oh.
My dog came into my recording studio and I couldn't resist because he's so cute.
what about you, Jonathan?
I watched season 2 of Homecoming that premiered last weekend. I watched the first season of Homecoming I talked about on a very early Beyond the Sins, which for those that don't remember, that's an Amazon Prime show. Julia Roberts was in the first season, and it was kind of like a mystery thriller thing. And then I don't know why I thought this, but for some reason in my mind, I was thinking the second season was going to be like, it was going to almost be like an anthology. It was going to be a different story, a different setting, which I thought was kind of weird because Homecoming actually factors into the first season, the name Homecoming. But it's not. It's this actually ties into the first season, which I don't think that's a spoiler. They have a recap right at the beginning. But Julia Roberts is gone. Janelle Monáe is the star of this season, and have you watched it yet, Aaron?
I have.
Oh, okay. All I'm going to say is Janelle Monáe is her character wakes up in a boat at the very first scene in the middle of a lake. She has no idea who she is. She does not know why she's there. And it just kind of goes from there. I don't really want to say much else. I will say Janelle Monáe is excellent. I don't know why she wouldn't be, but she's...
Is she excellent at TV Sins?
Excellent at TV
CinemaSins?
Sins. She would be really good at TV Sins. She's already great at acting and music, so I'm sure she could pull that off. And Chris Cooper also has a role on this show, and it's kind of nice to see him in something with a little meat to it. I like... I do like also, there's something they do that I usually don't like, but I think it's like in the 3rd or 4th episode where they actually show a little bit that's happened before all this. They take a scene from an episode in the first season, and they show you a different perspective on that scene. So all of a sudden, that scene means something completely different than what you originally thought it meant. I usually don't like that. I thought they did a very good job with that here.
It's my favorite part of the series. It's my favorite part of the season.
Yeah. But I will say overall, just to talk about my reaction, Monet is great, Cooper's great, all the acting's good. I'm glad they gave that character from the first season more to do, actually, because she was really interesting in that scene, I remembered. I wasn't as captivated, I don't think, as I was the first season, but like the first season was like a 10. This would be like an 8 or 9 for me, so it's not like it's a huge drop off. I'm still really digging this show. I think the storyline itself might be a little too thin to keep going like this, but they only do 7 episodes this season. They're only about 30 minutes each, so you can watch it like almost in one setting if you want to. I watched it like in 2 settings on the same day. I definitely recommend it still. I like I said, it's not quite as good as the first season, but I still really, really liked it. And if they make a 3rd season, I'll definitely watch it. But if it ends here, I think I'll be okay too. It's a very interesting show. Like I don't know of any show that just visually it's an interesting show. The way everything unfolds is really interesting. I don't know. I called the first season very De Palma-esque. I think it's still that way in the second season. I don't know. I just really dig it. It's a really fun show to watch.
It's Sam Esmail is the executive producer, right? And did most of the first season directing. He has a really great understanding of story turns. And you can really feel that in both of these seasons. He's very aware of when the audience is ready to experience information. And that's a real balancing act, because you don't want to be too far ahead of the audience and you don't want to be too far behind the audience. And he does a great job at feeling out when the audience is ready to experience information. And I think that's true in season 2 as well. Season 2 to me feels kind of like a coda more than a sequel. It almost just feels like here's what happened after the important stuff was done. And there's an element of that's fine. I still enjoyed it, but makes it feel less important.
I agree.
And so I came away from it going, I'm glad I saw it, but I also came away from it going, you know what? I wouldn't I don't know that I felt what I would have missed much if I hadn't seen it, which is a weird thing to kind of come away with. But if you liked the first season, I think it's a perfectly fine coda, to the first season.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely worth watching if you enjoyed it. And like I said, Janelle Monáe is really good. I mean, just for her alone, it's worth watching. I still love how I'm so glad they kept I love how the action doesn't end when the credits start rolling. It's like such an interesting choice. I've never seen a show do this. And it's not like there's a lot really happening that you have to pay attention to. It's just background stuff.
Yep.
It's so... But I never skip to the next episode. Like, I watched the whole thing.
Yes. It's wild. It's such a strange aesthetic and such a strange choice, but it works. And it gives the show a very lived-in feeling, right? Because you've got, at the end of every episode, you've got this extra 10 to 15 minutes of the cameras just running. There's actually a kind of a voyeuristic feel to it, right? Where it's like, I'm just seeing this world that other shows cut away from. They just go to the credits over black. This show just leaves the camera running. And it's just,
for sure.
I kind of like that. I think that's really interesting. What about you, Danae?
I was going to talk about a game, but I'm flipping things over because I decided to randomly watch the Amy Schumer Learns to Cook show on Food Network. And have you guys watched it?
No. I haven't, but I saw you tweet about it.
Okay. I didn't know what to expect. I don't mind Amy Schumer at all. I don't know what kind of person she is in her day-to-day life, except for that I follow her on Instagram and I find her posts to be fantastic because it's often about just normalizing body and normalizing transitioning into being a mother, and just she's very bold and very honest about her own personal kind of journey and things like this. She's very, very honest, and I respect that about women in general. So I find her interesting in that way. And I think I saw her posting on Instagram about the Amy Schumer Learns to Cook. I don't even remember why I clicked on it, but I did. And I watched the one where they make tacos. And I was laughing and I was fascinated. And I'm like, because this is a different kind of show. The whole pandemic situation has forced a really interesting shift in entertainment. And I'm really fascinated by that. You've got people who are reporters and journalists who are broadcasting from their living rooms, and the camera guy is on the porch, setting up their camera through the window so that they're keeping social distance, but also working. And so that's fascinating to me. There was a tweet of a woman who was broadcasting the news, and then someone took a picture from inside their house, and in her lap is her son, but you can't see that because it's just from the chest up. And I love that because that's real life. And you know what? Hell yeah, society. Let's figure out a new way to be able to be involved in our lives and not be so conformed to corporate, because we don't have to go places. We can still we can still function very well from our home environments. I just love it. It's just making me so happy.
Nice.
And here on this show, they're genuinely in their kitchen. They have their own personal cameras set up around their kitchen. Their nanny is the one that's kind of doing the camera work from the other side. And they're making dinner as a family while their child sleeps. Hey, our kid is sleeping, so let's do this episode. I learned that Amy likes to drink because she is pretty sure. They start off this episode, for example, talking about how they're still hungover from the previous day when they recorded the previous episode. And then they do this little flashback to drinking, I think it was Bloody Marys or something. And so we're just right in the middle of their lives. This is their kitchen. This is the food that they could get at the grocery store. So she married a chef, so he knows how to cook. And so he gives her things to do. It's interesting to see their relationship dynamic because she's kind of this standoffish, sort of snarky person. Me too. And so I'm like, oh my God, is this sort of how it would be if Justin and I tried to do a cooking show? And they're ribbing at each other and, reminding each other stories. And then at one point in time, she calls, I think it's Danny DeVito. She's like, I'm going to make this drink because it reminds me of Danny DeVito. I don't know if it was actually Danny DeVito because I don't remember stuff and I probably should have written it down. But then she just busts her cell phone. She's like, hey man, and just want to let you know, I just named a drink after you. And he's like, oh, hey Amy, how's it going? And he's on speakerphone and it's just blows my mind. And then they have these fun little visuals that they cut in with post-production, but how this show is put together and what they do in this little amount of time, it's truly a glimpse into someone's life in a very intimate way because it's not your standard Food Network fake kitchen, this is just a genuine moment, and I find that to be really, really fascinating. I hope that when life goes back to normal, that we see more shows like this, where it's more convenient for the people on the show than convenient for the corporations. So
I'll have to check it out. I love Amy Schumer.
I think you'd really like it then.
She was on the second or third season of that show Last Comic Standing. That was the first time I ever saw her.
Yeah, me too.
And I just thought she was amazing then. I've watched her stand up ever since. I've seen her. Chris and my wife and I went and saw her live when she came to Nashville a few years ago. I think her TV show was really good, Inside Amy Schumer. I thought that was very funny. I don't know that her transition into movies was great. I haven't really loved her movies. Trainwreck was okay. But I hate that when stand-up comics get any kind of popularity and start doing TV shows and movies, I just feel like they all get shit on, and especially females. And I've never understood that. Like, everybody's like, ooh, they sold out.
Well, one of the things I would
love to sell out, by the way.
In a show like, right? I think in a show like this, a comedian, somebody who truly just has a genuine sense of humor, has a chance to shine, because you know, she's just being so quirky and quick and witty, and she's in her element. She's in her home, and there's a certain amount of I don't know if you guys feel this in your life, but when you're in your power place where you're really able, there's my dog in the background, when you're really able to kind of like shine and showcase parts of your personality that don't really get to come out very often. When you take a comedian, you put them on a stage, you know, they're performing. When you take a comedian and they're in their own home, they're still performing because there's a camera there, but there's also a certain element, like I said, of just that like intimate relationship where you're being let in. And I think that's what we feel with social media. Like when you follow someone on Instagram and you really like them in movies or you like their music, and then you're seeing kind of more behind the scenes of their life and you're sort of getting to learn more about them. You have this on YouTube, obviously, with major stars giving their home tours and stuff like this. So it has that element to it. But then, of course, you get to learn how to cook and you get to learn how to make a cocktail. In fact, in 20 minutes, I knew how to make 2 cocktails. That's how many cocktails, and they're drinking them. So it just becomes very entertaining, and it's fun to see Food Network just do something like this too. So the show is called Amy Schumer Learns to Cook, and I highly recommend it.
I will check that out.
Should it be called Amy Schumer Learns to Cook and also to Drink? Like, is that...
No, she knows how to drink already.
Amy Schumer already knows how to drink, so she's learning how to cook. That should be the full title.
It's fun.
That's going to wrap it up for Behind the Sins this week. Don't forget to make sure you're subscribed and go ahead and leave a comment or rating as well. You can hang out with us on Twitter. I'm at Aaron Dicer. She is at Danae Says.
DENEESAYS.
Good job, Danae. That was very well done.
Oh, leave me alone.
And he is at Sam Loomis 13. So for Jonathan Watkins, Danae Hughes, and myself, we will see you next week.
Thanks for listening. Send any feedback to behindthesinspod@gmail.com, and be sure to subscribe or message us at Twitter. And be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
Hello.
Howdy.
What's up?
Oh, you know, just getting ready to do a show and stuff.
Everybody kind of looks like the person voicing them, with the exception of Archer. Because H. John Benjamin looks nothing like that.
H. John Benjamin's voice looks like Archer.
There you go.
I also apparently haven't talked today, so I have like the deeper registry going on.
Ooh, sexy voice.
I know, even though I haven't smoked in I guess 9 years actually now, because it was in May when I quit right before my daughter was born, and she'll be 9 in July. So I guess it's been 9 years. I still feel like I have that morning smoker voice. I don't think that ever goes away once you smoke for a while.
Well, I think it's like part of just also your vocal cords haven't warmed up. Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I'm sure I've done enough damage to my body to where some of that stuck around.
Uh-oh, she's got corona. She's got corona. She coughed. She's got corona.
This is why we're in separate places. I think the lungs regenerate, though.
I hope so. I smoked for a long time. And I smoked a lot. Like, I was like a 3-pack a day guy, so it was a lot.
Good
I know.
God.
Yeah. I can't even imagine that now.
3 packs a day. How many in a pack?
20 maybe.
Wow. So like 66 a day. So that's just chain smoking at that point, right?
I mean, yeah, like if you're just like, that's just like sitting at home, or like every time you're like, well, and the other thing is I had a job for a couple years where I drove a lot. So, I mean, driving, you just keep smoking. I mean,
okay. So within 12 hours of your last cigarette, the levels of carbon monoxide in your blood return to normal.
Wow.
Within 2 to 3 weeks, the cilia in your lungs, or the lungs begin to improve, and then the cilia takes about 9 months to repair. But then I remember, and this is just a super quick Google search, but I remember reading something like about at the 7-year mark, your lung tissue has pretty much gone through enough recycling that it's good. You're good.
By the way, that would be like about $30 a day now if I was still smoking 3 packs a day.
Good Lord.
I would buy cartons, so that saved a little. Back then, even though it was still like probably $3 a pack, $2.50 a pack.
And you were a heavy smoker for how long?
I did start a little later. I mean, I was legal age when I officially started. I was probably 18 or 19, so I smoked till I was 9 years ago. I was 35, so
15 years.
17 years.
Yeah,
I did quit for a little bit because when my dad got cancer, I quit. But then when he died, like 10 months later, I started smoking again.
Yeah.
Like pretty much the day he died. So
yeah,
it happens.
Well, it becomes such a even more than a physical thing. It becomes a psychological thing too. In those moments where you just need that. It's like me eating carbs. You know what I mean? It's just like,
yeah, for sure.
I have been eating so many carbs.
Well, and it's like once you stop smoking too, like seriously, like I gained 20 pounds like very quickly because I ate so much after I quit smoking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but I'm completely like, not only do I not smoke, but like I don't even, because like I would chew on pens and I had to have something in my mouth like constantly, and I don't
oral fixation.
Do I don't do that anymore. I quit giving blowjobs and.
I remember when I quit smoking cigarettes, there was this moment where I was in the car.
Yeah.
And my friends and I would just drive around and talk and listen to music and all this stuff. And whenever a good song came on the radio or whatever, or we played it on our iPods or whatever we had, it was always this
8
thing
tracks.
like, yeah. Back in the old days when you had to use a weird, gigantic 8-track cassette, you never knew it was going to play. But you did because it was only a few songs. Anyway, a song would come on the radio. We'd be like, yeah, this one. And then to celebrate the song, we would smoke a cigarette. So years after quitting smoking, I would still have that thing where a song would come on the radio and I would immediately be like, man, I want to smoke a cigarette. Mm-hmm. So but then, like, there's hard for me. There's the weird habit thing, like listening to a song or poker, but then there's the physical attachment that your body has legitimately created a craving for this outlet, which is the same for like, well, anything that we ingest.
Sugar, man. Ooh.
Sugar. Is a huge one.
That's mine.
Yeah, my mom used to drink like crazy sweet tea, and I could never even take a sip of her tea because it was just basically just sugar and flavored water. And then now she's worked for years she had to take this radioactive pill last year to help treat cancer. And there was this whole diet that was leading up to taking that pill. And so she had to just do a lot of elimination of different things. And by the time she came out of that, her whole palate had shifted. And so now she doesn't even crave sugar or like the flavor of it any longer. So that's been interesting.
Oh, that's
her whole palate's different now. Man, when I quit soda, I had the worst migraines for about a month and a half. I had really horrible headaches. And then finally my body shifted out. So now I haven't drank soda for a really long time because I was drinking so much of it. And then I just shifted over into a little bit of coffee and tea. So that's my caffeine intake.
That's what my wife does, coffee now. If she doesn't drink soda anymore, if a doctor ever tells me you will not live if you don't stop drinking, I will do it then. But I'm going to hold on to soda as long as I can.
I will destroy my body. I just want this.
I know a couple people who got off of meth. So, and that was a night.
Bad too. Yeah,
it was really.
I think
horrible.
I know one of those people, maybe.
Yeah.
And man, I remember that battle.
It was awful.
It's a life battle. It's just a life battle because because that can kick in that craving or addiction, that the psychological and even physical addiction from those things can kick in at any moment the rest of your life.
Yeah,
in a huge way.
Her major motivation was getting pregnant. She's like, okay, I'm done. And she cold turkeyed, but she had tried to get free of it for years, and she's just like the body's craving and the pain that she would experience and all of that. It outweighs, that she knows it was slowly killing her.
Yeah.
So drugs are fucked up. I remember my teacher explaining it to me like this. And so this is really like basic level, but it's always stuck in my mind. Like you inhale the chemicals and your body doesn't have anywhere to put those chemicals. And so it ends up kind of creating a key and lock system. So like you just inhaled a whole bunch of keys and it's trying to figure out what to do with them. And so it creates a lock, and then those keys have a place to go into the lock, and then it makes sense. There's an equilibrium, there's a balance, there's the way that the body does what it does.
Yeah.
And so when you stop inhaling keys and your body is still making a whole bunch of locks, there's that time frame where it doesn't know to not make those locks any longer. And so your body's craving the key that goes with the lock to make a balance. And so I've always kind of kept that with me as I've...
That's a good way to explain it. I've never heard that before.
So do you think people will enjoy the the 15-minute drug conversation for our outtakes this week?
No, this is our conversation. What they want to hear
this one
is...
in. I think people could benefit from this.
There are still times now, like all these years later, where I'll be hanging out. For example, a high school reunion just happened recently, and it had been a long time since I'd smoked. And there's all the people hanging out that smoke, and I went out to hang out with them. Obviously, I don't have any cigarettes, and I thought, hey, I'm having some beer, I'm having a good time. Like, I want to bond and have a cigarette. And I just, in my mind, I said, if nobody offers one, you're not going to have one. And nobody offered me one, so I didn't end up having one. But I knew I would if they had offered it, which is just a weird thing, because after all these years, why would I do that again? I will never pick up the habit again, but there's still part of me that's like, I wonder what the flavor would be like, of inhaling chemicals and burning lung tissue.
I don't think you would like it. I don't think you would like it.
I've also smoked pot, and then also, what are they called? My brain is, guys,
Cloves?
Today's show is going to be so bad.
You're talking about like LSD and
No, you guys, the electric cigarettes.
Vaping?
Vaping.
Yeah.
Thank you. God, I could not think of that word. It's the sensation of drawing something, this is going to sound so fucked up, thick and substancy into my lungs.
Right.
That I think that sensation is something that's just unique, because air isn't the same, it doesn't have like a texture to it or like a thickness to it. So, but when I tried vaping just to see if it would kind of check that box for me of the curiosity of inhaling. This is so weird to talk about. But I really did not like vaping. It was way too. It was not good for me. Yeah. It was something.
Hallucinogenics, though, since you brought those up, I will tell you that's a pretty easy one to get over, because when you start having kids and stuff, you don't have time for that shit. You're like, what? I got 12 hours to trip? No, I don't. If you can find me like a pill that lets me trip for like 45 minutes, like the like the time the Murder She Wrote episode's over, maybe.
So my intro today is probably going to be like, I'm not pooping. Are you going to be okay with that, Jonathan?
Yeah, no, you're fine. It's
okay,
fine.
okay.
It was just
we'll have that.
I just don't like visuals. Because I've had friends that'll send me like smiling or something. Like they'll just show their face, but they're clearly
of them
on
the pooper,
because they know it freaks me, because they know I don't enjoy it. And, I'm just like, God, fuck you. It's all good. It's a weird thing. But it's my thing. Whatever.
It's not a weird thing.
I mean, I also have a weird thing about dirty clothes, and that's why I do laundry like constantly. And I'm odd. I'm high maintenance.
That's cool.
But if you marry me,
embrace it.
You will never have to worry about laundry, because I'll do it.
Sold. Let's set the date.
Sold.
All right, let's.
No. I want to tell you a story real quick.
Oh, tell us a story today. Tell us a story. Okay.
Because clean the rooms reminded me of this. So the other day I was over at a friend's house. I ran over there real quick, and she's like, "Hey, come upstairs with me." And so I'd never been upstairs before. She opens the door at the top of the stairs, and she goes in, and she's like looking for something. She's moving furniture, and she's lifting up piles of clothes. And my friend, she's going, "Oh man, can't find it. Oh, not over here either. Oh, I really thought that I would find her." I was like, find her? Find it? What are you looking for? She's like, "Oh, our snake got out." I was standing in this room, and they have like a massive snake, probably like a 5-foot long snake that they keep in this big aquarium thing, and they cannot find the snake in their house. And I'm just like, oh my God, what if it falls from the ceiling? So then I start feeling itchy. And so I'm standing in the doorway, like I'm looking for my exits. I'm realizing I must have a thing with snakes that I didn't realize I had before. But I don't know. I just feel like in general, if you're going, like, give the person a heads up. Hey, do you want to come upstairs and search for a missing snake with me?
It's
not a pickup line, Aaron.
No, can I just say, I'm trying this out next time I have somebody over. Hey, want to come upstairs and search for my snake? I had a cousin who was going to the Olympics and then wrecked while riding his bike and was in a coma for 6 months.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, let's start the show. Sorry. He's fine now. He's doing... Sorry.
I knew a guy that got drafted by the Mets and fell from a tree and broke like every bone in his body.
Oh
it's just like the new game is, let's see the most depressing thing you can say right before
That's just what
going
that made me
into the
think
show.
of. DENEE. That is really hard to do, by the way. I'm impressed that you're able to do that every week because that is insane. I can't do that.
You're impressed I can spell my name. That's awesome.
No, like really quickly though. There's too many E's and then you have to go straight into an S. It's like DENEESAYS. I can't do it without like pausing.
It's like
And
something.
she says it the exact same every week. It's like the exact, like she nails it. Like it's just crazy.
It's like you with Iris. You know, you spelled your name. Good job.
That's not what I meant.
Oh, honey, look at you. I'm just kidding. I know that's not what you meant.